on them in the chat. They are always down to perform for you. But this next matchup is going to have $1,000 on the line for EU. They're going to be taking it very serious. It's also going to be the decider fight between the former Virtus.pro squad, now playing as BuffEnjoyers, taking on, of course, the Abrahams. Before we get to that, though, we got to give a shout out to our friends on Intel. And in fact, Intel is going to be ponying up the $1,000 for tonight's fight. That means you get to keep your money in your pocket as we cheer on Sherrick, D-Mov, Listic, Obi Kim, Hoot, and Zergy, the BuffEnjoyers, with a fresh logo tonight. Jake, Hoot came in last week on Pocket and was a menace. Who else do you like to watch on this squad?
I think Hoot's definitely a hot player to watch. I think Zergy is a player that I personally watch a lot since I try to play a lot of late game carries in my pub, especially the sevens. I like to watch Zergy. Learn from me. He streams a lot. It's a great one to watch and check out with YouTube content as well. So definitely those are the players I'll keep my eye on. But Obi came on the support. Could be one of those players bringing out things like Paige or Doorman, and like playing these unconventional support styles. So I'm really excited to see what his take maybe is on some of these new characters.
Listic was the one playing Mina, and of course D-Mov won our MVP with the Viscous play. The BuffEnjoyers getting the better hand of the fight against the Abrahams, Hoot's old squad. So let's take a look at the team that just won our challenger matchup. ZP, what should we know about the challengers from week 1?
Yeah, I mean, what you have to know about Abrahams is that while obviously a little bit of roster change with ABL getting added from the old one-win team and Hoot going over to BuffEnjoyers, this team is just stacked with mechanical skill. They can make things work that arguably you wouldn't expect to work. And look, I mean, they've adapted and showed us a new look against Lodos in the best of one, but something tells me is that they may have been saving some of their better looks here for the BuffEnjoyers match. Like, there is a world where, given how adaptive drafts are, if they were to use something like Doorman or were to use something like Paige, they held it in reserve specifically for this match that's coming up against BuffEnjoyers. And I'm excited to see what happens because historically, these two teams have played each other incredibly close.
It's been good games, close games. Will we have another long game, or is it going to be a raffle stomp like we saw in the opener? Jake's trying to figure out how to get above water. Bro, you just got to close out of Deadlock, sadly. You can't run Discord, the stream, Twitch. He's got YouTube. He's got his kick field open. I've seen it there in the window. Jake, we're going into this next game, though, and this is two teams that are very familiar with each other. Do you play around with game number 1 at this point? It's a best of 3.
I think you got to just lay your mark on the match, especially with these two teams. They're always trading championships. Yes, okay, it's BuffEnjoyers in the defending slot today, but it could have just as easily been Abraham. So with all the new characters, I feel like this is always going to be that exciting clash where both teams bring out everything they've got. I think you might be right, ZP. There's a real chance Abrahams have some more in the tank that they didn't show in that challenger match, but here in the money match against BuffEnjoyers, I think you want to come out swinging. You want to come out strong and win game 1, set the tempo of the series.
I got better things to do than get
Abrahams banning their namesake to kick things off. You're saying no, Listic, maybe you got, or Hoot, you won't be using the Abrams this time around. It was Hoot playing it last time, but does open things up here to see what BuffEnjoyers is going to ban first. Do they respect the Doorman, or do they just get rid of Abrahams' bread and butter? To me, I think they may keep the bans a little bit more traditional, get rid of something like the Vindicta first, but instead they get rid of the Paradox.
It's been there in back-to-back matches for the Abrahams, so it makes sense to get rid of that because there's also first pick. If you remember last game, Vindicta and Calico, they were in that top list of characters banned in week 1 when Abrahams won. Where were they in week 2? Will they make it into the games here for week 3, Jake?
I think Vindicta tends to be pretty high prio, with her ability to escape some dangerous situations, just like the flight ability on top of having some strong catch and some range nuking, great side effects. Feels like a hero that you kind of want in any draft. You're never mad that you have, Vindicta can follow up on a lot of these openers and stake people down, and it's great for setting up more fallout from the rest of your teammates, and maybe snowballing in the early game. Abrahams are going to prio, the holiday, given that they've already put a ban onto Paradox. Taz says, all right, give me one of my best heroes, and I think there's good reason to give Taz a hero that he's super strong and comfortable on. This guy just has so many big games on these pick initiators.
All right, so Viscous, our MVP, is probably going to D-Mov, right? So that's the expectation for BuffEnjoyers. What's your second pick, ZP?
I think that with Moan Krill going out here, it's kind of interesting. I would expect Abrahams to secure their front line now, get Warden. Warden, I think will go no matter what in the next 2 picks, unless they have something ridiculous planned. I would love to see Abrahams go Warden Yamato, but maybe they will feel a little bit less pressured with Moan Krill picked. I don't know. I still actually think you go Warden Yamato here, get your front line, and Abrahams plays really, really well with both heroes. But instead, they decide, let's go Gun Kelvin again another time. Maybe. It could be for Saint, it could be for Jam side. We don't know.
It's a nice thing about this pick, right? You can respond to how the draft goes, and if you could pick another carry, or you could end up like leaving this in the support role as it's conventionally played and just use it to defend against some key heroes. I do think the Mo Krill is a great pick against Holiday. I mean, she's so mobile, she loves to dance around, and to just hard lock her down is usually a great option. Shiv, though, classic combo with the Kelvin, very strong in the lane, very strong later in the game. You dome somebody in with Shiv, they can't run away, they're in real trouble.
So, Shiv, strong or shit? That was the question from chat.
So, I mean, I think the thing with Shiv is like he's just always on the edge of a knife because of his execute skill. Like, it's so powerful to be able to nuke people down from whatever the threshold is, 20, 25%.
So, chat
HP.
should not play Shiv, but the pros can play Shiv.
I haven't seen it look very good in my rank games. I will say it has looked pretty weak in like the uncoordinated environment of a rank game. But I think if the team is behind you, they're pumping heals into you, they're like catching people for you, then Shiv is an absolutely amazing hero at capitalizing on that amount of resources. It's just not that realistic maybe to get those resources in like your average game of Deadlock where if Shiv falls behind and he just feels kind of useless, right? He really needs to be where he wants the game, in his control, I think, to be effective.
ZP, not only did we see Hoot get a pocket, Warden gets banned by BuffEnjoyers. What happens the rest of the way? Walk me through this draft.
Yeah, I mean, I think for BuffEnjoyers, this kind of signals that for their front line, they're looking for maybe something along the lines of running the Billy. For Abrahams, it's a little bit surprising to me. I feel like we went back in time. There was a period meta-wise where you would run Shiv Kelvin lanes all the time. Shiv was a really high prio pick, especially for Abrahams because it is probably Together's best hero historically. But, based on testimony of the players, they're thinking, okay, maybe Shiv isn't that worth picking over other options in that particular slot, especially early in the draft. But they've kind of gone back to their old ways. Meanwhile, BuffEnjoyers, they're able to pick up the Vindicta at the number 4 spot. That is wild. We have not seen that in many weeks of Deadlock competitive play.
Yeah, getting Vin so late in the draft feels amazing. And, I think for Shiv, the Pocket has always been sort of the classic counter since Pocket's ulti does massive damage, takes you down. However, it's for most heroes non-lethal. It can't actually finish you off. You run back to base, you're on 1 HP. The Pocket ult isn't killing you. But Shiv, because of his bloodletting skill, actually does die to the Pocket ult because it's like his own passive deferred damage that in fact kills him. So in some situations, the early game especially, you get afflicted, and where any other heroes would go back to base and be all right, Shiv can end up dying because of that passive skill. So technically, usually a good matchup.
Lash back in it, back-to-back games. Let's close this out. BuffEnjoyers get the final 2, and then we'll be going over to Abrams. Paige, making it in, ZP. True or false? I say false.
Honestly, I would love for it to be true, but we'll see. It hasn't shone out in the first game. What's interesting to me, okay, we got the Billies, so you got to think that's going to be Listic playing it from what we've seen so far from BuffEnjoyers. But also, Abrahams was trying to take away Zergy heroes here, where they pick the Infernus, which signals that it'll be Jamside Infernus, Saint on Kelvin, and then they take down the 7. So Zergy's going to have to go back to the well and play something along the lines of like maybe a Wraith, which has been sort of like lower in the priority list for carry heroes or something else. And okay, it is going to be the Wraith. Yeah.
So
it's not a bad Wraith game though.
Is it a popular jungle character? Why are we going Wraith? Explain that, because Zergy, every time he went to his screen, was hitting headshots on the 7 last week.
So Wraith, I think the real problem with Wraith at the highest level is just the laning phase being one of the weakest of these like late game carry heroes. And also compared to 7, compared to Infernus, you're really not a team fighter, right? You're very much all about those single target catches and pickoffs until you get like ultra late and get super farm. So it's like a split pushing carry, which makes it a little bit weird and pretty different than things like Infernus and 7. However, I think it's a good game for the Wraith, mostly because of the Lash matchup. You could if you can catch that Lash with a Wraith ulti, you can break the ult, like Lash's ulti and deny him some of those setups. Even Shiv likes to get in there, get super aggro, but could be in trouble if he gets Wraith lifted as well. So, I think Wraith not the best option, but for BuffEnjoyers, I think it's their last option. I think they were sort of forced to by good bans and picks from Abrahams to force them into this spot in the draft.
Great Talon. What do I need to know about this character? Have not seen it on Night Shift yet, ZP.
You know about Grey Talon is that Grey Talon can be paired in some like pretty explosive burst lanes where if you fall behind HP wise, it can actually be really hard to stay in lane. But where Talon really shines when he's done well in competitive play over the last few months, it's when you put Talon in the mid lane, and then once he gets ult, you can use Owl to pressure the entire map effectively. You can send an Owl to left or right with impunity and set up kills while not actually leaving mid. So like Grey Talon's ability to apply map pressure in the early part of the game with Owl is probably his absolute best attribute, from about 10 minutes to about 15.
All right, here we go. It is your European final, $1,000 up for grabs thanks to our friends at Intel. BuffEnjoyers versus Abraham's. First to 2 wins walks away money. On the mic for this one, we've got the great ZB Cast and Jake OW. Follow them on Twitter and listen to their voices in game. Crank up these headphones.
And we're heading into it, Jake. And honestly, I think if Abrahams takes map 1, you got to look at the draft here where I think going out of their way, the Band 7 taking Furnace, it puts a lot on the Wraith. And we'll see if Wraith is able to perform up to, the same levels we've seen Zergy on the Infernus or 7. But you think about it, we just haven't really seen Zergy play much than 7 or Infernus in the last month or so.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are probably generally the top sort of like late game carry heroes right now. They have great individual single target damage, but they also have big follow-ups, big team fight skills where maybe they can get active a little bit earlier. They have a different way to contribute than just raw gun carry, where Wraith kind of a one-trick pony in that sense. I'm also thinking I like the GT as a final pick here because I think in the environment of like mid-late game where Wraith can be split pushing and like looking to take down walkers, then being able to throw the bird from across the map, then you get like a +1 on top of Wraith, and the bird can catch Wraith after the blink or before the blink, even more deadly. Then you actually could have that follow-up damage to get on top and finish off the Wraith in these split push environments. However, it can kind of go the other way. I think GT also typically builds absolute glass cannon, like all damage, no tankiness, and if Wraith gets on top of you, you are not going to live long.
Well, speaking of lanes, they did go for just what is a very bursty mid lane with the GT Holiday mid. So, it's kind of tale of two sides here. You got big burst on one side, and then you got survivability on the other with Sherrick on the Mo and Krill. But Mo and Krill gets too low from the poke. As we kind of mentioned last game, Mo can kind of get sentenced to purgatory.
Yeah, especially on these very early levels. Typically I think Mo's, if they can, they hard rush Quicksilver Reload as their very, very first item. But you get low early and it's not going to matter. You're not going to be able to hit that on heroes and get that massive on hero lifesteal from your first skill. So Sharik has to be cautious in these next couple waves and, really play his HP effectively.
Really like the idea of the Billy Viscous lane on the left, by the way. I think Viscous may cover for some of Billy's issues, also has the ability to set up Billy for kills. I'm curious to see if that lane matchup works, but Demov and Listic holding up the left, already pushing Abrahams pretty deep into their Guardian.
Yeah, this is a scary lane to play against. I mean, if you don't have the ability to play range, right? We saw Vindicta against this lane, and she just was totally fine, right? She was backing off all the time, just playing under the tower, playing super long range, getting all the last hits, not sweating the threat from Billy. But, if you're not able to do that, if you're not able to play a range, you can be in trouble. And speaking of trouble, mid lane, it's just the raw poke, man. Sharik getting absolutely melted in these first couple waves, and that's going to be a lot of tower damage. Just a healthy wave crashing here.
It's also really problematic, I think, going forward for BuffEnjoyers, where if Abrahams is able to get middle Guardian down early, you can leave GT in middle. He's going to be sending Owls to the left and right. And at the same note, while he's sending Owls left and right, Tass is going to be the one doing roaming on the Holiday, looking to set up lasso picks. I mean, the early mid-game pressure that Abrahams is going to be able to apply here, if this lane is successful, is kind of wild.
Zergy getting some nice and eyes, but that's a big parting headshot. Zergy's really low now, wasn't really able to peek up much, and GT going in deep past the tower, grabs the parry, and then that finish off damage. And I mean, mid lane's going from bad to worse. Wraith, we talked about the weakness in the lane, and it's only amplified against Holiday. We talked about burst lanes, right? Holiday GT, it doesn't get much burstier than this. Sharik finally gets that Quicksilver Reload online, but he's so low. Is he even going to be able to get into hero range?
I think the scary part here, too, is that they're not even denting the lane of Abrahams here. But the GT super healthy, but Billy here on the dive. Listic going in, gets parried. The one downside about Billy when you're going for the melee is you can have your day ruined by the parry. Lash got super low. Billy not quite able to finish off. Instead, getting burned on down here. The parry at the very end is Jamside able to finish it off.
And Demov just slips away with a kill as well. So I mean, that would have been incredibly dominant for BuffEnjoyers. The parries did enough to take Listic down, turn it into a 1-for-1, but Virtus still pretty low there.
Of course, checking in on the right-hand side. The Shiv Kelvin lane, still reasonable. I don't think it's quite as scary as it was in the past, but oh man, Sherrick going down again in middle. The middle lane needs help, Jake, but the way Deadlock is, it's pretty hard to do a lane change at this point or send someone over the gank. You kind of have to handle your own business.
No, you just can't. You just need to lose your Guardian here. I think it's basically a foregone conclusion at this point. Shiv in a bit of potential trouble. Been over the top. Shiv's just too low to stick around in that fight. Kelvin's trying to go in solo, but I mean, you can have strong lanes, but I feel like Vindicta is one of the best in the game at just defusing a strong lane, a threatening poke lane that normally would be a problem. It's just hard to land that damage on Vindicta, and she's so good at trading. I mean, the Rush Suppressor, Healbane queued up next. That's a monster opener combo against particularly the Shiv Kelvin lane that relies on those heals that Healbane's going to disrupt.
I think one lasso. Thing of note, yeah, the lasso not quite connecting, and I mean, for Vindicta, actually, hold the phone here. GT under tons of pressure, now rolling away. Wraith on the chase down, 2 HP down. Zergy taking the initiative off the missed lasso. Not sure if Sherrick is going to be able to survive 100 HP. Not the easiest thing for Tass to dive in on here, though. Probably just going to hang out.
Maybe coming with Bird, though. I don't think he can stay in this lane for long. I mean, Sharik is one Bird. I don't know how he's ever going to evade that if he stays in this lane. So he's going to have to pick his battles wisely here. But I don't know what other option you have. There's not really a way to heal at this point in the game. You go back to base, but you're almost certainly losing Guardian for that.
Yeah, it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Right,
he's taking a base trip. He's taking the base trip. That's going to be mid Guardian, or it very likely should be that mid Guardian once they're able to crash a wave. And I think Zergy is just going to do the same. They're just going to give up this mid Guardian, survive for now. And this is the nature of Wraith, right? You do give up a lot in the early game. You're hoping to be able to make that up later. You're hoping that the early game maybe isn't this bad. But now you've freed up. We talked about the threat of GT, farming in that mid lane, roaming with Owl. And I mean, there's few better heroes than the Holiday to get active in the early game in terms of once you've cleared that opening Guardian to go to side lanes.
And you can actually track when the rotation is going to happen. Look at Tass on the ult stats right now. Spirit Lasso is off cooldown, but once it's up, it's going to be going in. Meanwhile, Billy coming on in, Chang Gang, and Saf just gets pulled in and dead. Listic's mastery so far of Billy looking better than other Billies we've seen so far.
I mean, it's a good matchup against Lash, right? You catch Lash with that ultimate, and he relies so much on these movement skills. It's almost like a built-in slowing hex with that additional pull follow-up. And, you know, there's not many better heroes than Viscous to actually follow up with that damage. Point-blank Bird from ABL hits 2, Taz with the follow-up, and it's 2 more kills in the mid lane. Zergy and Shriek were trying to get active, trying to turn their fates around. Hard to blame them for it. But instead, it's just more feeding, and I mean, very efficient play here for ABL. It can just boost back to the base.
Look, Lasso is off cooldown, and where's Tass going? Tass is heading off to the right. Lasso on cooldown? Need to change that by getting a kill. The motto of any Holiday player to ever exist. We'll see who's in Tass's sights now as the right lane turned to a bit of a brawl. Deep dive in with the Affliction. Goes the pocket as Hoot tries to create a little bit of room.
Going to be a lot of damage on Shiv, but I don't know if it's enough, right? With Kelvin just pumping heals. You can see that Shiv ticking a little bit, but oh, who is here but the Holiday to ruin Obakim's day? I mean, arguably one of the better games so far is on this Vindicta. Now I think it's a lot going to be on Viscous and Billy to snowball the game. A catch, though, under the Guardian. That's the cost of the rotation. The good punish from BuffEnjoyers. These kills are really valuable for players like Sharik and Zergy who are far behind.
Yeah, they're getting huge damage onto the Guardian, but still comes at a cost. Barrel into the crack shot, and Zergy goes down. Just a quick rotation back in, and again, it's going to be the same thing where I expect Taz to kind of hang out in middle until Spirit Lasso is nearly off cooldown, and then we'll rotate over. But you know, as I say that, we'll see. May just decide the freelance here and now. Went to the right last time, Jake. Now, maybe doing a little bit of maintenance on the left.
I think, you know, GT is not really under threat in the mid lane when you don't have ultimates on these BuffEnjoyers mid laners to respond. Zergy is just going to head to the jungle already. I mean, and strangely, Zergy had a rough game in terms of deaths, but he's gotten the net worth at 6k net worth, and I wonder if he has, like, maybe if he rushed something like the Tesla to just up the farm speed in the early game, because Wraith has the potential to make a comeback in this game. I think, like, despite the deceptively, it would be deceptive if you just thought about how bad the mid lane went. Wraith somehow got her farm here, and actually she's going to be potentially a real threat in this game.
I think the threat for BuffEnjoyers in the next minute or so is that Owl is ready to go. Tass is now good to go on Spirit Lasso in just a moment, so pressure is going to come in on all ends. Let's say that though. Take a look at Hoot. Hoot getting chased down a little bit by Saint.
Nice move.
He's
going to slip away. Yeah, head back to base. It's the threat of the pocket, right? Which is like very clean movement, clean outplay. Probably the highest skill hero. I would say highest skill ceiling hero in Deadlock right now, which is the insane movement potential that pocket does bring.
Tass, ready to go. Just hanging out right now, Jake, looking for the opportunity. Maybe goes mid, maybe goes over to left. Just in the jungle at the shop right now. We'll see where he goes on this next lasso. Abrahams, for now, off here on the left-hand side. Shift over here, the jam side. Still good HP on the Furnace, taken up to the high ground. Right now, it's all about defending the Guardian. Pretty good damage, though, on both Sherrick and Listic. Maybe picking up more than they can chew here off in the corner. See Jamside coming around, and it just burned the Mo, and Sherrick nearly just down. Too much damage.
Yeah, the Fulp's there, defending the tower, starting to pay dividends for the moment. Parry is good, and the big follow-up here from Abrahams. They picked their moment well, and the roll from Dima, I don't know that this is going to be enough. He's trying to dance his way out of this, but the burn is just a little bit too much. Jamside picks up more kills, and I mean, talk about carrying. This is the one who really needs to have the best game, I would say, from Abrahams. And Furnace, see his build. It looks like, is he going? He's max afterburn too, so he's really going to go for that pure gun carry, not going for the dash build this game.
Yep, Jamside went full ice last game on the gun Kelvin. Now, a little bit of fire on the Infernus. Also, speaking of fire, into the middle, Tass rotating over, Spirit Lasso ready to go. And you see BuffEnjoyers just kind of scattering. Although, I take a look, is Tass going in on Listic right now? Look at the minimap, it might be a thing.
Grabbing some farm, picking up some easy boxes here. And early game, it's been pretty back and forth. Abrahams have eked out a 6K lead here, which is not bad. I mean, that's like maybe it's a little small items for each player, not necessarily game changing. An earn, though, at this phase would be huge. And I think that's something that BuffEnjoyers almost can't allow, but I'm wondering, what do you have to deal with it, right? Like, where's the big team fight hold? Mo just respawned and won't really be in this fight unless he goes straight there off the zip. Could be a scary spot to be here if you give up this earn to Abrahams and their lead expands.
I mean, to an extent, you'd be hoping for Hoot to land a really good Affliction. It's one of your better team fight options here, but right now they're just going straight in for the turn-in with the Kelvin. Soul Urn grabbed on in. Frozen Shelter still in reserve. Not even has to be used here, Jake. Oftentimes, at the very least, you'd get the Frozen Shelter out for the Urn, but right place, right time for Abrahams.
I think he's just calling the bluff. It's like, what do BuffEnjoyers really have? I don't think they were even going to attempt that. They were just looking to get whatever soul denies they can with Vindicta spamming down onto that urn, which, you know, I get it. Like, maybe that's the best you can do here. But still, it's painful. The lead expands nearly 10K now for Abrahams. They have a few more ultimates online as well. Taz is continuing his streak of very strong early games, snowballing into the mid game. And, you know, I think Hoot maybe is one who can be a difference maker for BuffEnjoyers, especially on this pocket, can find some big afflictions. But he had a rough start to the game. He had to do some very defensive opening builds, went for like the Majestic Leap, just fully rushed so he can actually play the game and be effective in these team fights.
Yeah, I mean, if you're BuffEnjoyers, you're hoping for really big team fight engages with the Affliction from Hoot, and ideally, Listic setting things up with Chain Gang on Billy. I think, to me, Listic's Billy is the X factor, because Listic historically is very, very good at just finding new ways of making frontliners super effective. It's the first time we're seeing him play Billy. But also, should Billy lose, I can guarantee you, Puckett's going to come in and be like, yeah, so that Billy guy is 0-5 now, right? And, the stats don't lie, if that is the case.
Yeah, I do see the vision, you know, like if you can catch some of these high mobility heroes like, you know, GT or Lash that don't want to be in the close range, you catch them with the ulti, you lock them down, you pull them in, maybe there's follow-ups with Tether or something like that. Like, I do see the strat here for the Billy and how he can be effective. It's just a lot, I think, depends on your ability to not just be an ult bot, right? Like, you need to be able to also be a strong front laner, also take some of the trades. And when it comes to that mid game, how he matches up against Shiv Kelvin is, I think, maybe going to be a bit of a bellwether for this hero, although it's not exactly a fair fight with Kelvin right behind, buffing up Shiv and healing him up through all your damage.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone can just turn a fight, it would be Saint on the Kelvin. And you look at the map control situation here. Abrahams has generally had a little bit more of the map. BuffEnjoyers, you know, stuck on their side more than they would like. I'm kind of surprised it's been a bit quiet in the last 5 minutes. I would have expected to see Tass deep diving a little bit more. Actually did go for a lasso attempt off camera a little bit, so maybe did just have something and was a little bit of a miss. But now things again up close and personal here in the middle. Hoot trying to chase down ABL. ABL super low, but eats the shots from ABL in turn. Super low is Hoot. ABL though caught by Listic towards the end. Hoot gonna have to disengage from the rest of the fight. Mid-fight now in progress. Obikim in over the top. Assassinate. Looking for the shot. Lands one on the Tass. Running for his life. Up, away. Hits it. Does not fully kill. Dimov, though, will finish what Obikim started.
Yeah, nice couple kills there for the BuffEnjoyers, and the low players escaping with their lives. That's massive in terms of the comeback potential. Able to, leverage those player advantages now to grab just a little bit more farm on the map and getting the game back a lot closer to even. However, Abrahams, I think there's a window for response in terms of the ulti tempo. That was a little bit expensive in terms of ultis, and Sharik still low HP on the Mo, so won't be the most effective until he heads back to base and resets.
Oh, from the top rope. Saf just comes down and slams the goat. That was a great time.
Yeah. Sav is pretty big too on the Lash. I feel like Lash is one of these heroes, the more you can just build like raw spirit nuking, the more ridiculous this hero gets. The more you're forced into some defensive green items, the sort of, you become more of a utility team fighter. Not necessarily a bad thing, but it's those games where Lash is like 90% spirit where it starts to get scary. He starts one-hitting people, especially people like Pocket with such low spirit resist. If you do get caught by Lash, you're in massive trouble.
Especially some of the recent builds where people will grab things like Spirit Bar and Lash, where it's like not only taking a massive damage from a ground strike, but also just lit on fire afterwards. Dude, a little bit of pressure, full-on rooftop fight.
Yeah, buffs coming up.
Ooh. We gotta pause to talk about this, Jake.
Oh,
you look at
brutal.
the setup right now. This is everyone involved, sans Zergy and Jamside, as together has had a pause, but man, oh man.
As expected, the core is jungling, but I kind of would like to see Zergy maybe come into this engagement and create a 6v5. You are down pretty significantly in terms of souls here. I think you need that +1 player advantage, and there's a wave that you kind of have to catch right now for Jamside. So there's a window here for BuffEnjoyers to bring the +1. The question is that enough? Because fighting out here in the open seems scary to me, honestly. Like Lash, Holiday, they are going to have their way with this fight. I'm not sure you can really match the roof brawl potential that Abrahams brings.
On top of that, you also have the Kelvin shake it up, but combo here on the buffs as we get another pause.
So tragic
Smiley
pause
face.
lock. Okay, initiation looks good. Is that a kill? It looks like the follow-up's going to be there in the combo. They don't have an immediate stun to break this Mo ulti, so I think this
shelter.
Is opening pickoff for BuffEnjoyers. Zergy, I think if Zergy starts running right now, but even if you shelter him, are you going to be able to save him?
He might be able to live, yeah, because, okay, the question is does Saint use nade? If Saint has nade and is able to drop shelter, I think there's a world where you can save Sapphire. It depends on how big the burst is going to be from Listic, but in theory, Saint is just, you know what Saint's keyboard is right now? 4-4-4-4-4-4-4-4.
Yeah.
Just
and
like
Vin is going to get domed out too, so I think you might be right, but it's going to be close. I think if he gets this ulti off, they're going to team like BuffEnjoyers. If he dies before it, it could go the other way. So a completely absurd pause here. Instant frozen shelter comes off. The assist is there, and he's not even popping the ulti. They're just confident. They had more people inside of the shelter. But a slip away from BuffEnjoyers.
Listic a little bit low towards the end. The save successful from Saint. Certainly had all the time in the world for it. Sherrick gets caught towards the end. Up one now. Abraham's looking healthy across the board. Listic still a little bit low. Dimov getting beaten up. Goo ball or no. And that's 2 picks for Abraham's in what was a very pause-heavy fight.
Yeah, silly fight with the pauses, man. The one bright spot is that you do grab the urn here. You could look for a turn-in. However, it is a fair turn-in here in the middle of the map. GT does not want to be caught by Billy, and a mid-boss just immediately forced from Abraham's, calling the bluff, saying, okay, you want to run the urn, have fun with that. If we get a mid-boss rejuve here, it's worth so much more. And 15 minutes into the game, quite early for the mid-boss take.
Mid-boss again taken on down here, and we'll see if there's any contest. The Soul Urn is grabbed, and yeah, they're going on, and Hoot dives over and in, looking for the big affliction. Death Slam, though, in response. Most of the rejuve taken up here, or all the rejuve by Abrahams, now chasing down those who dare to contest. Listic is down, and Hoot may be next on the menu. Sherrick right now in all the shots on the Mo, maybe tanky, but you got 4 members of Abrahams right behind you.
It's basically worst case scenario. You tried to contest the mid boss, you failed that contest, and you lost a bunch of kills in the meantime. So all your waves are going to be crashing against walkers right now. Abrahams have some decisions to make. Where do they want to go to press this advantage? Is it just diving straight for walkers? Maybe right now there's a good bit of jungle they could try to clear out on the opponent's side of the map. That looks like the some of these buffs are online, rather the camps are online here on the BuffEnjoyers side of the map, and Shiv is just going to hoover them up.
Yeah, and you look at how the fights are going to take place now. It's not just about the 10k difference that you have, but you look at the soul allocation. BuffEnjoyers have gone out of the way to say, Zergy, get big, get huge. But you're on Wraith, who doesn't have the late game payoff quite as significant as some of the other heroes. But in the double Gamba right now, maybe Saint, a little bit deep diving right now. Low HP on the Kelvin. One rejuve down, Task getting caught at the same time. So BuffEnjoyers picking and choosing point here. Demov, though, may end up paying the price. Killing blow in, cuts him on down.
Let's get this show on the road.
Yeah, and this is a Shiv who's also invested here in the cult sack, so has a lot of like farm snowball potential into the late game. Building very tanky here with that spirit resist. It's going to be a bit of a problem. You have a lot of spirit damage on the BuffEnjoyer side, right? Like pretty much every character, at least at some extent, is going to rely on some of that spirit nuking. So dealing with the Shiv now starting to become a bit of a problem, especially with the rejuves online.
I think part of the problem for BuffEnjoyers, they're a team that when they do well, Jake, they usually invest in frontline, and they have a very, usually ahead of the game frontline. What does Listic do when a 20k Shiv is walking up on him as a 14k Billy? Not much.
Die.
Yeah, exactly.
Dive quickly. I mean, that's the thing. It's like you're going to ult the Shiv. He wants to be on top of you. He wants to get pulled in and dive you. Especially with Kelvin assisting onto that. So yeah, we're talking about that, some of the issues with this, the Billy frontline. On top of that, I think Infernus brings a lot when it comes to the team fighting, right? Diving in with like countering someone like Mo who gets an initiation. They have some good stuns to counter the Mo initiation. Lasso comes to mind first, but also I think that Infernus ulti can come in and counter initiate, save somebody who's caught by Mo. And with Rejuve's online, you're not even worried about that. They are just full splitting. They're going to get pretty much every jungle camp off the map before they try to push and really make use of the rejuve. So feels like a stay of execution, but actually it's kind of going from bad to worse for BuffEnjoyers.
Also, you talk about interrupts for Mo, and you're completely right on that, but Sherik is like pretty broke at the moment. You don't need interrupts when you can just shoot the mole and he's just going to go down. It is the other problem here. So when I think about win conditions for BuffEnjoyers, I actually think it's a little bit narrow right now, Jake, where they can't take a straight up fight because of how weak their front line is, but they still have to make enough space for Zergy to capitalize on being somewhat ahead on the Wraith. It's a very tough set of conditions that almost relies on Abrahams getting caught out of position first to give BuffEnjoyers a man advantage.
Yeah, Wraith just has to find single pickoffs, and you're just not getting those advantages, those opportunities. Mo caught, getting absolutely brutalized here, can't even get underground. And yeah, it's a lasso and a lash ult used for one kill, but you're totally happy to just secure any kills you can get here without any kind of a trade in the team fight. Because Abrahams, they're just looking to continue to expand that lead. We talked about this last game, right? They play from ahead and they just get further and further ahead. They're split 3-3 on the map here, so there's no easy team fight. There's no individual player that Zergy could catch and pick off, and there's not much for Wraith to do right now, right? Like, I think this is where that point in the game where BuffEnjoyers are going to start to feel really closed in on the map. There's just not much for them to be accomplishing.
Also, scaling-wise, we talked about before, Vindicta's main power spike is early through mid. Once you get to late game, Vindicta, while not useless, it still will usually be applying reasonable utility. It's not the same level of threat. And take a look at this. You're going in on the Shiv, but he's so tanky. You hit him with the telekinesis, you hit him with a little bit of WM1, and he doesn't care. He absolutely does not care, Jake.
Yeah, combo onto Lash, but follow-up, I just don't think there's enough. They do put a lot of damage onto some of the key heroes for Abrahams, and I think that's going to maybe send Abrahams just to reset and maybe re-engage later. But that is good damage. I think that buys you a little bit of space here for BuffEnjoyers. It may be expensive, but yeah, I think it's Abrahams are actually smart not to try to force that fight with the threat of maybe some pickoffs that Obicam or Demov could find with their burst.
Oh,
but the bird.
Down. You just see Listic at half HP and you hear the screech in the distance, and you know. But yeah, Infernus. It's a frozen shelter. Gonna try and make something happen here. Concussive caution out, jam side. Just going, yeah, lock him in the freezer. I'll blow him on up. And BuffEnjoyers, they're just running out of options right now, Jake.
Yeah, brutal stack of ultimates. This Infernus does crazy damage at this point, and an earn turn in for Shiv on the opponent's side of the map just adds insult to injury here. I don't think you're going to be able to stop it. Put a lot of damage on Shiv. You maybe are going to be able to kill him here. He should be dying. Oh, he got a buff. Oh, the barrier, not enough. Obicam, that crow, does get the finish on Shiv. It's a nice kill to find, especially with Rejuve's already down. Can you get more, though, BuffEnjoyers? I think they're feeling a little bit desperate here.
I mean, this may be one of their better opportunities, as weird as it says to say, with Zergy still dead. Shiv being out of the fight, kind of huge, but overall, you see Abraham just able to regroup, and BuffEnjoyers realize, okay, we can't really do a whole lot more from this side, but if Lash is going to stick around, they go, maybe we can get on the Saf.
Yeah, not worth an affliction there. Maybe wouldn't even be able to connect it on somebody as fast moving as the Lash. Cash clearing that barrier off of He's not going to be too upset about that. And I mean, this is something that we've seen a lot from BuffEnjoyers, this team in the past, is they are really strong at playing from behind, right? They know how to maybe stem the bleeding, even in a really scary situation. So as good as Abrahams are at expanding their leads and closing out games, you know, it's kind of that unstoppable force versus the immovable object. BuffEnjoyers have made comebacks from these scenarios in the past, and all their walkers are healthy. So the macro game is still very solid for BuffEnjoyers, despite the soul disadvantage mounting against them.
I think the difference, though, between the comebacks that we've seen BuffEnjoyers do versus right now is I don't know if their team comp supports it. I think this would be one of their more impressive comebacks if they managed it, just because scaling-wise, I feel like they're in a little bit of danger. The one upside, though, of like some of the recent exchanges and farms that Listic at least has been able to catch up to some extent is going to be a little bit better in the front line, but oh, the 3-man ground strike. Saf
good catch,
able
though.
to come on in. No, they go on the Saf. Saf, low HP, goes down, but
It busts up.
damage going to be enough to go. No, Zergy's actually starting to feast. Zergy able to make a little bit of room. However, Frozen Shelter is out. Together, 2 killing blows here so far. Do we have a third? He's just diving on in. This is the danger of a raid boss Shiv into the late game.
Yeah, he's so tanky. Tanked a full affliction there. Still has a bit of health left to work with. Now GT trying to flank and deal with this Vindicta. Obikin wants to slip away. One more bow shots. A nice counterspell, though, from Vindicta. No charges left. And maybe, have you gone a little bit too deep? Counterspell blocks the knockdown, and the catch is there. Really well played by ABL. Snipes that one out. But the 3 for 3, don't think either team is going to be able to press that into a big advantage. And honestly, for BuffEnjoyers, it could have been better, but a 3 for 3 is a winning trade when you're down 20K.
Yeah, you don't hate that as BuffEnjoyers. That's about as even as you're going to get in that sort of situation. It helps, you know, give you some options. I'm actually surprised they're able to make that fight as well as it was, with Saf actually starting off with an incredible amount of damage on the Lash, but the response was immediately there. They don't let Saf get away after engaging, and Zergy had really good target focus fire as that was going on. I mean, you kind of look at people's HP, it's like, wait, what's killing people? It's Zergy, who is still pretty ahead of the game as Wraith at the moment.
Yeah, he has the damage, and they do have the control to lock people down and set him up to actually deal that damage. Billy with 6.4, let's see what he goes. It is going to be Spellbreaker. Just prioritizing maybe tanking through some of the burst threat, especially from somebody like Lash, who is going to do massive burst this game. Zergy, I mean, he's pretty much all damage, has only gone for, I guess the Fortitude is a defensive item, not really. The Spirit Resist mitigates some of that burst, but this is what you have to do in some of these games when you're behind, right? Like, you can't afford to take the defensive items, the counterspell. It would be great to have a counterspell here, but you just need the damage because your team is relying on you for that as the carry here.
I think conversely, the logic here for Abrahams has to be, if you're Tess, your ideal pick, it's got to be getting in on to Zergy first, if at all possible. So Zergy has to position in such a way here, Jake, where they never go in on Zergy first, but Zergy is able to immediately get in on people as the situation demands.
A little bit of a trade happening here in the right side lane. Earn pickup by Shiv, but I think this is mostly a defensive move from Abrahams. I don't see them going for an aggressive turn-in on the other side of the map here. I think they just know that if they give up the Earn to VP, then VP would absolutely dunk it. Yeah, that's nice to prevent, but there's a lot of jungle camps on BuffEnjoyers' side of the map. They're equalizing the soul lead slowly but surely. It's down, I believe it was up to like 20-something K earlier. Now it's 15K. So like little by little, yeah, we talk about the problems with BuffEnjoyers comp, but I think they also have some significant power spikes, Boundless Spirit being one of them. Zergy is just continuing to up that single target focus damage. If you get comboed by Mo in front of Zergy, you are going down fast.
Yeah, no one is surviving that for Abrahams. And even if Saint is around, that could be a rough combination. Well, also the X factor here still for BuffEnjoyers is, what does a late game Billy look like once you get a full kit online? You know, we haven't really seen a lot of situations where Billy's been competitive into the late game, and while it's been a little bit tough for BuffEnjoyers here so far, I feel like a player of Listic's caliber wouldn't have picked Billy without good reason.
And Shiv is just ticking down, holding the Iron. Like, This is one of those things, like, you can hold Earn for a while, but in the end, it's costly. Like, you're not farming at this moment. And BuffEnjoyers, although they love the dunk the Earn, I think they're kind of happy in the status quo of just nothing really going on. When you're behind, you know, that's exactly what you want. Knockdown here, onto the Lash. Is there going to be follow-up? Is there damage, moreover? But the combo is in from Sharik. He did catch the Lash. Billy's in with a catch. Warpstone away, though. Billy didn't want to commit that ultimate, so being a little bit greedy here. I think Lash, oh, maybe could get away from that.
Yeah, he gets the airlift courtesy of Saint, and the full engage option here from BuffEnjoyers does not quite pay off. I think you're 100% right. Listic was hoping to get the kill and save the chain gang. In reality, probably should have used it there. But now things may get a little bit scrappy. Lasso, ready to go here for Tass. We'll see if Abrahams takes advantage of some of these key ultimates for BuffEnjoyers being gone, because they also lost Affliction in that setup here too. If you're Abrahams, yeah, you're down the GT, but fighting may not be the worst. Another anvil on top of Saf, though, and Saf again is the target of choice.
Yeah, it's still +1 player advantage. Somebody got that solo kill on GT. Now Lash gets bursted down, caught, not able to deploy their ultimates once again. So the pickoffs from BuffEnjoyers look good. They're starting the fight up 2 players, and you still have players committed here. Shiv's in trouble. I don't know that he's going to be able to play his way out of this. Already, I think, dead on his screen here. Yeah, with that follow-up damage coming in. And remember, mid-boss is online. This fight is for pretty much all the marbles in terms of Abraham's lead.
And also, Zergy found Saint on the back end. That's 3 pickoffs. Everyone's around mid, and you see the calls coming out internally for BuffEnjoyers. Let's go mid. And it does seem to be the call here, Jake. With only 3 up for Abrahams, surely you don't really have much in the tank for a contest.
Yeah, maybe Infernus tries to come in for a sneak, but it's not worth it at this point in the game, right? The game would really get out of control if you gave up kills on top of the reju. But as it stands, BuffEnjoyers might be down a little bit here, and some walker pressure is coming on to potentially punish this. You need to get this walker. It's critical, but this stuff. Okay, he just barely gets the damage on. For ABL, you could argue this is a little bit worth, like, it is a walker. It is pretty valuable, but also having ABL down is like, he's probably one of the better heroes at, you know, spamming nukes from range, defending that mid walker. And I think it's very likely here that BuffEnjoyers are going to be able to get a lot out of the map.
Yeah, and that's exactly the point I was going to go to, is that if you lose ABL, yes, it's great you got the walker, but one of the ways you stall Rejuvenator is just good, consistent long-range poke, of which GT is best in class. Now Abrahams, there's a world where they get baited into what could be a terrible fight, 5-on-6 with the other side having Rejuvenator, so this defense is real. Oh, Lasso just...
What a read from Zergy. Like, they saw that coming, man. They heard the Holiday maybe jumping toward them, and they just completely dodged that blind lasso attempt from Taz. Midwalker crumbles instantly here. Pocket also causing a wave crash on that other sidewalker, and Abraham's going to bring a lot of players, though they want to maybe def this sidewalker, but who wisely has just backed off this. He's letting the wave crash. He's not risking his life on this one. And meanwhile, they pick up the Urn, continuing to expand the lead, and somehow, some way, despite the souls being even, this Urn has been juggled for so long by Abrahams. It's still a favorable Urn, so a free turn-in for the BuffEnjoyers.
And that will officially be BuffEnjoyers going ahead of Abrahams on the overall soul count. They were in the tank, Jake, closer to 30K than not at one point. I think it was as high as 20, 25K. And they have brought it back, and they've done so with a comp that on paper should have been struggling. I mean, Together had the option to maybe run away at the game as a very scary Shiv, but now you take a look at it, Together, who was once nearly 10K above Listic earlier in the game, now is behind Listic in the overall farm, so you have a completely different dynamic in frontline versus frontline.
D-Mob's nuking threat with this build is actually absurd. Like, if he Phantom Strikes in on you and just pops every single skill with, like, melees and balls, like, this is crazy. He has the triple ball stun with the warp stun plus Phantom Strike. It's like a guaranteed 3 consecutive ball stuns that you won't be able to press any skills during. I mean, on top of that, massive damage, massive melee threat, even without the ultimate engaged. D-Mob, I mean, this Viscous, this is why this hero has been picked so early now with this new build, and that's 2 Urn turn-ins with the Rejuve, and I mean, BuffEnjoyers are starting to build a lead of their own here. Now it's Abraham's turn to try and make a comeback, but this Rejuve still has about maybe a minute 30 left. BuffEnjoyers could definitely go for a walker push if they want to.
Something of note here, too, is the separation Zergy and Jamside have gotten from a decent portion of the game here. 43K, 42K, well ahead. Dualistic actually adding on with some of these recent walker kills, but, you know, which team is going to be able to support their damage in the back and not let them get dove on is going to be crucial in how some of these fights go down. But with Rejuvenator hitting its last part, you got BuffEnjoyers right now, Jake, trying to take advantage before it fades.
Yeah, and Zergy found the opportunity to go back for some defensive items here with the Spellbreaker, the Counterspell, so not an easy one to catch. Gonna just rip that lift early, try and CC away some of the players. Counterspell blocks the Lash ult. It looks like nobody got pulled in there, so Lash ult essentially wasted, or hold on, maybe Pocket did get pulled in actually by that. He should be able to play his way out of the fountain, and Jamside's coming in with the counter roll.
ABL able to find Hoot, so one down. Rejuve and then killed right on after. ABL off the Owl. Owl on the hunt, doing a little bit of a rotation back over. Looking for anyone here left on the BuffEnjoyers side. Finds Obakym, gets another Rejuve out. ABL bringing in the poke damage as Abrahams tries to make BuffEnjoyers pay for what has been a very successful push here so far. Still on the chase down. One arrow right in the Mo's back. Gets hit with the stake. And now Obakym desperately trying to get away, but should not be able to do so here. Too many people in and around. 2 down for BuffEnjoyers and the rest of the Rejuvenators, but they got a dear price from it out of Abrahams.
Yeah, able to drop some base guardians, you know, open up a little bit more on the map. Abrahams, I think they're going to be happy that they're able to hold that without dropping shrines, without, you know, losing the first stage patron there is crucial. Actually, wait, shrines did go down there in that trade. And so, but at least you kept the first stage patron, right? That's something. And a guided owl with a lot of skills. Abrahams want more of this. They got player advantage on the map. You cannot be out here, Billy. You think you're tanky, not tanky enough for the amount of burst Abrahams bring to bear, and they're quick to try and strike back here in this fight.
Team up, tries to punish Saf. Saf able to work his way out. Zergy still being a threat in the back. But this is a little bit dangerous for BuffEnjoyers. If you get another stagger here, not only are you going to lose Walker, but you may lose some Guardians on top of it. Very, very perilous. But however, you take a look at where Abrahams is at. With Saf being so low on HP, I don't think they're that keen on staying in the fight. I think they'd rather go back, get some of the jungle camps that have been, you know, up for a little bit and equalize the soul disadvantage where they can.
Yeah, it's like, are you really going to push in and try and siege a Walker when there's the threat of that, like, combo, the Wraith ulti, you know, getting a big affliction, especially if you group to siege? It can be a pretty worrisome thing. They still are +1 with that late Listic kill, so they're trying to set up around this wave. Vindicta's coming to clear it. See if she gets caught. Taz wants to find a catch here on whoever comes for the wave clear, but Vin can be a pretty hard one to grab.
Here comes the lasso. Dodged! Obakym felt it coming, just barely gets away. Saw the lasso just nipping at Vindicta's feet.
That was extremely close. Too close for comfort, I'd say. Vin has invested there in the superior stamina. Just continue to assist her ability to escape from these fights. Phantom Strike used. He didn't go for the combo, though. Mo just didn't see the kill threat there. And I actually agree, without big damage follow-up behind, it's just too risky to drop that combo with the rest of his teammates around. Just harass Phantom Strike.
Mid boss is back up. The game nearly as even can be. And both sides right now just kind of posturing. BuffEnjoyers a little bit further out on the map than Abrahams. And, you know, if you're Abrahams, you kind of wait a little bit here. Your ideal engage is still Tass being able to open up with a pick. And we'll see if that ends up being the case here, as Spirit Lasso is going to be available in just a moment.
Yeah, buffs up in 15. We'll see if that's something Abrahams want to come out on the map and contest. Maybe it'll just be a 1-for-1 buff trade. Scoot, probably the most mobile hero on the map here, happy to clear the wave. But 6-on-5 for a moment here. Abrahams, see if they want to take that player advantage and run with it. A lot of harassment on the Lash, but he tanks it in stride.
Gun buff gonna be grabbed here. Both teams still fighting over it. Combo goes on down. You hear the fist coming on out. So the fall through is gonna be there. Meanwhile, up over Saf, chasing down Vindicta, going for the death slam. Up over. Do you get it? Over ground strike. Sherrick and Obakym in a little bit of danger. Saf down at half HP. Jamside coming in from the side, finishes off the mole.
Zergy low. If Zergy goes down, this could be really bad, and it seems like Shiv is on top of him. Zergy trying to play his way out of that jam side, putting in that frontline pressure as well. It seems like the backline's starting to slip away, but everyone's low on both sides. This team fight still on the edge of a knife.
Who was able to find ABL, even as you see Listic running from jam side. Still in pursuit is the Infernus, maybe a little bit out of touch. And Jake, as the smoke clears, both teams down 2. Neither team with a huge advantage here so far, but more chase down, perhaps coming in from the BuffEnjoyers end.
Yeah, who is happier to play more in a team fight like this than the Pocket, though? And with Zergy managing to get out of that one and get re-healed, that's huge. I mean, that was just down to the wire together, just couldn't quite get the finish on that kill. And so Zergy back on the map, ultimate almost online, and Dimov is calling the bluff. He's running the urn right now. He says, dare you to fight us, dare you to come out and challenge. And Abraham's, there's too many low players. I don't think they can.
Yeah, I mean, this is on a knife's edge here now, and here comes Hoot looking for Jamside. Jamside just gonna Warpstone Flame Dash away. Did not like any bit of that. Does not want to be the one that gets picked off and causes a snowball, but because he has to leave, there's a little bit less here. The contest the urn, still something that D-Mob's going for. Drops the urn, drops a Puddle Punch. And BuffEnjoyers, they think they can force this one in. Is it actually gonna happen here? Up D-Mob goes. And this is
they're putting
very, very tense around the urn.
Yeah, Saf wants to be able to really threaten the ultimate. I'm not sure he's going to be able to get it off. And yeah, with BuffEnjoyers, more players there just a little bit earlier into the engagement. And they're getting yet another urn drop, which the urns are starting to get really valuable at this point in the game's EP. They're starting to be pretty massive and get you some of those key ability points for the late game.
Jake, you know what else is valuable here too is the slot situation. Because BuffEnjoyers had that big push into the base, they got all the walkers down and they got base guardians and shrines down. They're working with full kit ability and extra souls to go with it. Abraham's, they actually cannot do full build the way they would like. They're still down 2 item slots.
Let's go yellow.
Yeah, we'll have to see if they're able to equalize from that position. Frenzy online for Listic. I mean, he's got pretty serious gun damage, pretty massive tankiness. So the Billy has, we talked about some of the early game fights, maybe he was struggling to tank through the damage, but the Spellbreakers coming online are going to really reduce the threat that ABL brings despite this massive investment in the Spirit nuking.
About to hit 40 minutes. This, I believe, Jake, is the longest game we've had in Deadlock Night Shift history.
Confirmed.
Here so far. This bucket just comes in, is like, yep, that's right.
And it's still pretty close. I think BuffEnjoyers have a moderate advantage here, but a couple team fights go against you, man. And honestly, this game can end in one team fight, right? The spawn times are long, bases die incredibly fast. If you lose a team fight close to your own base, it could be lights out even for the BuffEnjoyers.
All right. And again, when you talk about one team fight can decide it all, you gotta look towards those with playmaking ability, where Tass could still be the hero for Abrahams here, who now find themselves a little bit behind, but one good Spirit Lasso is all it takes. But it's been a little bit difficult to find here, Jake. A lot of big dodges at Tass's expense.
ABL now just keeping the waves pushed out with the GT. You know, I think this is kind of like the best you can do here is, right, like force someone to respond on the waves without, you know, giving up your hero position, allowing the team to still contest some of these spots of the map. But in the end, it's a very defensive posture from Abrahams, right? They really are corralled towards one corner of the map where BuffEnjoyers are splitting pretty significantly. And a chain for the Billy. You have debuff remover, but it doesn't remove that ultimate. However, the rescue beam is enough.
I see viscous.
Both teams, though, they're hoping to find that opening pick. They're hoping to find that baited initiation that sets up the end of the game. But I think they both realize how much is riding on this team fight, and no one wants to be on the wrong side of that opener.
Yeah, I mean, both teams showing an enormous amount of patience, but if you're Abrahams, having Chain Gang out does feel like a pretty good opening to go for a fight. Now, I don't think Billy is quite as alt-locked as something like a Warden in terms of effectiveness, but you got to be thinking maybe we push the envelope a little bit more right now. But also, you talk about things that have changed with Deadlock over time. You know, back in the old system where you had item slots per category, you didn't see Mo's hitting nearly 5k HP all that often. That's all I know.
Yeah, this Mo is massive with Juggernaut and Spirit Resist. He's so tanky, so hard to kill, especially once he burrows underground. Affliction. I wonder who's caught in that. Ooh, a Phantom Strike. Ooh, Mo is absolutely going to ult somebody if they get the chance. Looks like Affliction on maybe Shiv and Calvin, pushing them back. Oh, Phantom Strike there, but just a nice juke away there by the Lash, able to slip away.
And Abrahams, they like what they're seeing right now. Go in, drop the Frozen Shelter. Someone caught in there. Look at the HP for BuffEnjoyers. Appears to be no. But Abrahams being a little bit more frisky in the team fight here. Frozen Shelter down. And D-Mob, a little bit of goo ball rolling back and around in the freezer. Lower HP, but for now surviving together though. Able to find one killing blow. Maybe the opportunity enough for Abrahams. Saf super low. D-Mob able to get on the jam side on the back end. Not going to be as much carry damage coming for Abrahams. Meanwhile, Zergy still alive as this goes down. We'll get together.
Oh, he's
now
cooking.
the subject to focus fire. Won't be any more killing blows now. BuffEnjoyers up one. Zergy on the hunt, making the Wraith work. Nearly just burning down Saint for the fire. Another card up and over. Saint can't get away. And with 3 clean kills, BuffEnjoyers may have just crossed the event horizon.
Yeah, and with this Frenzy online, he looks a little bit low on Wraith, but that is deceptive. This guy is a freak below 50% HP. Not someone you want to fight. Lash takes a challenge, takes a test, but proves a bridge too far. Taz, ABL, no ultimates online, and we are about to see the Patron drop very quickly. And last, there's a discussion right now for BuffEnjoyers. Do they want to just go mid-boss before dropping? I think they are just going to maybe play to end the game immediately, or it is going to be a drop and then the mid-boss. Wave is crashing on your shrine. You are just losing shrines for free in your base for BuffEnjoyers, so actually a lot of decisions to make despite the winning team fight.
I think this is the lesser of the evils for them. I actually do think where they're at, they could have maybe finished. There's still a lot of people still dead for Abrahams, not a lot of ways to contest, but BuffEnjoyers decide they want to play this one particularly safe.
Honestly, with the dropped Patron and the rejuve, I actually think this is the better call, because I think this is just a guaranteed win for BuffEnjoyers. Like, the one hope for Abrahams is that if you overcommit on the Patron itself, okay, the Kelvin Dome is like that one X factor that could maybe delay the team fight enough. But typically with the 4 rejuves, even a Kelvin Dome, even a last ult, right, it might make the team fight look really good, but then the Patron just dies in like 2 seconds. If Zergy is allowed to free shoot on the Patron at any point, it's game over for Abrahams, and preventing that with 4 rejuves, pretty tough.
Yeah, especially the modern rejuve where you get back in the middle of the fight. It gives you a lot of options, and the defense has to play against it so particularly carefully. And I don't know, I think at this point for Abrahams, you're running out of time, and you have to take a risk at this point. I feel like you need to go for a fight that maybe on paper isn't your ideal fight, but I don't think you can sit back and wait and let BuffEnjoyers dictate their ideal fight, because we've seen how they handle Rejuvenator here, Jake. They're going to play it safe until the Rejuvenator is near the end, and they're going to push into your base anyways. Their only hope at this point for Abrahams is they need to, I feel like, go on the map and try to get a fight before BuffEnjoyers is fully set up, if that is even possible.
I think you do just go for it, though. At this phase in the game, I think going back to farm might not be worth. Like, you have a good lane situation, which is pretty valuable here, and all right, Pass gets that initial opening lasso. That could be the start of a good fight, but let's see if he can get that big affliction in the early game. Finding a couple, I think that's enough, and Patron's taking so much pressure.
Yeah, you just go all on the Patron at this point. Frozen Shelter comes on down. There'll be a quick little trip to the freezer for the Patron, but are they going to be able to finish up BuffEnjoyers while it goes down?
No
There's
way.
hardly any Patron HP left to go. It is gone, and BuffEnjoyers complete what may be their most impactful comeback we've seen in a long time. Even with the comp that, we wondered, they still made it happen.
55 minutes later, the game is done. We have passed 2,000 viewers over on twitch.tv. YouTube is up in full force, and I just silenced all the annoying kids in the chat. We're having a great time here on shift number 3. Your night manager, Chris Puckett, is in, which means shit isn't getting done, but we're going to have some fun. I got Jake, I got ZP, who need a drink of water after that extensive cast. Jake, last week, I felt like BuffEnjoyers, then known as VP, as soon as they smelled a little blood in the water, they went to finish the game. This week, they took their time. What's going down between these two squads? Why is tryhard mode activated so heavily?
I mean, in this game, it was mostly their blood in the water. Like, right for the first 2/3 of this game, it really just felt like Abrahams are getting further and further ahead. VP, or rather, BuffEnjoyers are holding on as close as they can, stabilizing, keeping some fights in contest, but it felt like things were tipping against them. And then a couple of these big pickoffs come down, and this has been the BuffEnjoyers calling card, is that even from behind, they are so strong on the defense. They kept their 3 walkers up so incredibly long. And I mean, look at Shriek and Zergy. These guys got brutalized in the opening minutes of the game. The lane was terrible, about as bad as it gets at this level of play. And yet they both become key factors in the late game. Zergy gets the farm up, becomes that key damage dealer, and has a couple massive team fights. And Shriek finds some big openers, some big combos to set up some of those late game team fights. So definitely a story of never giving up here for the BuffEnjoyers.
ZP, last week we had the Graveyard Shift. That's our Patreon only, invite only hangout after the series. And we called out Zergy for his incredible play. Then he blew my mind by pulling out the trackball, which he uses instead of a mouse like a normal human. How was he able to lead the lobby in damage in that final game? The man was taking 63,000 souls.
I mean, it's just magic, because unlike other methods of aiming where there's all sorts of aim coaching, all sorts of ways to improve if you're using a mouse, yeah, no one's doing that for trackball. Zergy just went and carved his own path and ended up with just unreal aim as a result of it. And I think the unreal thing about this game, on a wider note, is that this is just another chapter for BuffEnjoyers of they are never out of a game until they're truly out. I mean, you think about some of the differences you had in this game, not only the middle lane that Jake was talking about, but there was a point in frontline difference where Together had nearly double Listic Souls and was running around as a nearly impossible to kill Shiv. And somehow, some way, BuffEnjoyers just looked for tiny little advantages here and there, and they chained together a few pickoffs, and it got bigger and bigger until finally they weren't behind anymore.
It feels like Puckett is always sloshed, and I love it. Big shout out to 6 Foot Sam. Sam, hold that thought, and Jake, hold yours. We're going to take a look here at some of the numbers in just a moment. Were you able to call out like a game-losing moment for the Abrahams? Because you both mentioned it was early game in their favor. Was it a team fight? Was it an individual gank that you think turned the tides, or was it simply better items over time?
I think there's that one team fight, like where the game is super even around like what 35, 40 minutes, where VP or BuffEnjoyers, sorry, I gotta relearn that one, are just, they're a little bit behind, but they still squeak out some few picks, get a team fight win, and go to the mid boss. And that's what makes them so good, is I think that like this is not a team that's bad at chasing leads. Like Abrahams is one of the best teams at escalating the lead, at finishing things off, finding catches. So many times Taz went in looking for those lassos and couldn't come up with anything. It was just too evasive from the BuffEnjoyers squad. So I think just the impressive reads, mostly what didn't happen, right? What didn't happen was the Holiday getting some of those opening picks that could have turned into a game-winning advantage for Abrahams. The fact that BuffEnjoyers dodged that time after time, for me, was the key.
I like these call-outs. ZP, we're waiting for the match stats to load. While that's happening, we should call out that we have partnered with Intel for a number of broadcasts. This is the first one here on night shift number 3, and they're ponying up $2,000. That's $1,000 for EU, $1,000 for NA. But this is a community-owned and operated show. Break it down. What have we witnessed so far? What's going down here in week 3?
And what's been going down in week 3 from the sponsor end, of course, this is Intel coming on back, which is great for the players and community. But in terms of the actual game, it's been a little bit interesting because we came in the week expecting to see, okay, where's the doorman? Where's the page? And at least in EU, both teams have decided, actually, we're going to go more at the tried and true. And it's been a story here so far. I think the other thing, just in terms of micro gameplay to touch on, is that I think the one aspect that BuffEnjoyers was able to do that helped them get back in the game is that they really had the idea in the mid to late game of don't let Lash beat you, where anytime Saf was going in, guess what? You had Sherrick going in, landing a combo, heavy focus fire on the Saf, and Saf would only get like one engage in before either dying or being knocked so low he had to get out of the fight. So, yeah, I mean, just greatness from BuffEnjoyers.
Narc the Shark wants to know, when will we be doing a top 5? Whoa, I think it'd have to be top 5 Mo knockouts would be my first clip series that we'd make here. Second one would be all about the glob. We have some big viscous maneuvers. In the meantime, while I'm thinking of other top 5 material categories, we need to show some love to Intel, Night Shift, and Asus, the combo you never expected, but definitely need in your life. It's going down this weekend as we are dipping our toes into Counter-Strike with a $10,000 invitational. We're talking 5 digits of dollars, all thanks to our friends at Intel and Asus Republic of Gamers. It's going to be fantastic, and we have some very special guests. A former duo that you would listen to on the regular is reuniting to hop on the mic for this one. Jake, I know you are especially excited to watch some CS2 from the Night Shift community.
It's just one of those games that stood the test of time, right? Counter-Strike has just been around for so many years, and I think for anyone who's a fan of like any esport, you just got to put some respect on Counter-Strike. So it's pretty cool to be able to bring this tournament together with the help of Intel and Asus ROG to bring you guys some Counter-Strike 2 action, to get a fan favorite duo back on the mic. We're teasing it out. We'll announce it at some point. You're gonna have to keep your eye though on the Twitter. Follow up with all of our announcements as we get close. Remember, that's this weekend here coming up in North America. So
4 p.m.
watch out.
Eastern
Hope to see you guys
Saturday, there. Ladies and gentlemen. Mark your calendars. In the meantime, we got to get back to this matchup. ZP, I think the numbers are still being crunched by Mr. Valve. They're caught in a steam pipe somewhere. They're on their way here. Expectations for MVP candidates. If you could pick a player from each team, who were you loving? Who are we liking? And who do we need to see more of going into game number 2?
I gotta say, I got handed to Zergy. I think one of the big question marks going into this last game was, okay, you're stuck with Wraith, where objectively people are putting Wraith significantly behind Infernus and 7 overall in terms of carry potential, and we just haven't seen as much Wraith. And Zergy said, nope, it's actually fine. Put me on the Wraith. It may take a little while to ramp up, but you cannot deny Zergy's impact in the final team fights that gave the game over the BuffEnjoyers. It was a really, really good Wraith performance, and it may not even show entirely on the damage stats because Zergy did have to spend a lot of the game just powering up. But in the fights that really mattered, the fights that BuffEnjoyers need the win, we saw a really good target focus fire by Zergy. Zergy was able to stay out of the line of fire, did not get hit by lassos or anything that could have taken him down. And to me, I'm kind of looking at it from the BuffEnjoyers' point of view. Their comp and their endgame does not work unless Zergy takes care of business.
I like these callouts from ZP, and no chat, we are not moving away from his breath. ZP uses scope. He smells fantastic like flowers, unlike his basement, which has dead bodies. We're going to talk about those in a little bit. For now, we're going to a break. We come back. The night shift continues. It's an EU fight in the finals. Familiar faces, BuffEnjoyers, Abrahams. Game 2 on the way.
Guided Owl with a lot of snap.
One, potentially 2 drafts remain. Welcome back, everybody. It's the night shift. It's the third shift, and we are getting into more fun with familiar names. Abraham's taking on BuffEnjoyers, but a lot of people in the chat are like, where's the Virtus.pro logo? Well, EWC's over, Jake, and as a former pro player, you know how the seasons go. When the last big tournament finishes, all contracts seem to just dry up, and then you get a new one in about 2-3 months right before the next round of seasons get announced. Do you think the team BuffEnjoyers is the first to get grabbed by a big org once Deadlock gets invested in by the big orgs?
I think they've absolutely proved their worth over the long haul. They're probably our longest standing team with like pretty much in all the same members. I mean, they had a couple, rotations in and out here or there, 1 or 2 players, but they've really been at the top for so long in Europe. You think a lot of these players are players that are going to stand the test of time. So I think they'd absolutely be a good choice for an org to go for if you want to pick up a European Deadlock team. But in the end, it's so early in Deadlock. It's just the reality in this game right now. A lot of the teams are going to be unsponsored amateur, and then we'll see what the future holds. I mean, remember the game is still in beta, right? We're still getting
and
news
that's
girls,
why we're
big
paying
changes.
them with Intel's money tonight. Shout out to the fans who helped us get them paid the last 2 episodes. But ZP, let's refocus. BuffEnjoyers, Abrahams. It's time to go to another round of drafting. And what are your expectations for bans on both sides? Hit me with both of them.
I feel like for BuffEnjoyers, they're not going to give up that middle lane the same way they did before. I really don't think they want to deal with the Holiday in the same way. They have first pick here, so they ban Paradox, and they can go from ban Paradox into pick Holiday, which may be the way to go. I mean, it depends on how much they're truly scared of it, but the reality is that you don't want to play from behind the way BuffEnjoyers did. Yes, they got away with it, but I think you try to mitigate some of the factors that led to you having such a miserable early game experience.
And I think that while the Wraith worked this game, or last game rather, for BuffEnjoyers, they got the win. I think they might also put a little bit of a higher draft prio on getting Zergy one of the more conventional late game carry heroes, maybe the 7, maybe the Infernus. Maybe even looking in a different direction altogether if they want to pull out something unconventional. But I think maybe you want to take that just a little bit earlier. With Mo down as well, I think Mo makes Wraith look a lot better since you have so much insane single target, and the lift can be a follow-up if the target's not down. But maybe without Mo, you want a little bit more team fight stun potential from Infernus or 7.
Do you steal Viscous if you're Abrahams? Because it feels like if you give BuffEnjoyers Viscous, they win the game.
I think you do. I really don't think you let Demov beat you what would be 4 times in a row with Viscous, which would be the case because Demov played Viscous in both matches last week in the money match and played Viscous in the first map here just now. And they will pick Viscous 100% if Abrahams does not come with Viscous as their second pick. They have to pick it to deny it. And if they don't, Demov is going to get Viscous for the 4th time in a row.
I see the question for the 50th time in the chat. This one from Bert Pertle, a first-time chatter. Is Mikhail S playing? According to chat, Mikhail S is pursuing university. In the meantime, Hoot has stepped in for Virtus.pro, now known as BuffEnjoyers. Now that I've got you caught up, Pertle, we go back to this one. Vindicta is in. So we got blue characters across the board. Some feet are showing for the Abrahams. And Viscous will be played by Demov. What do we lock in for our third character here, Jake?
I mean, Warden's unbanned. You could look to go in that direction if you want it. I think Vindicta Abrams, though, is a great duo to pick together. This is one of the OG super strong lanes. Vindicta tethers you down. Abrams follows up with a pin, and it's just like monster damage, monster follow-up. Abrams front lines. Vindicta super hard to catch. Kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't lane. BuffEnjoyers grab the pocket for Hoot, though, and I think they just want that player hero combo. They're just like, look, put Hoot on the pocket. He's just a monster on this character. He's going to get a ton done.
I'm looking at it here, and I'm actually thinking for Abrahams, maybe you pick the 7-turn Furnace here and ban the other one again. I think even though BuffEnjoyers was able to come back in the last game, I think it was still a rough position for them to be in, and Wraith comes online way later. They do pick up on the 7, and I think it just may be going back to the well again in terms of stuff that worked for Abrahams. You ban the Infernus. Yeah, BuffEnjoyers is going to go Wraith, but I think you're still okay with that, even though Zergy made it work after 40 minutes.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that ban.
7 on Abrahams. Who do you give the 7 to?
It's probably jam side on the 7, just playing late game carry. I would think. The 7's another hero that can be flexed. We have seen it flex into sort of like a soft support role. It's been a while for that. I think pretty much everyone's playing it on the late game carry right now, especially with some of the changes. The farm efficiency is so good. Love the lash ban though. I think once Kelvin was taken away, you almost had to get rid of the lash, or else Abrams would have grabbed it as like the perfect counter initiator to defend people like 7 and Abrams when they go in for their catch, they go in for their initiation. You try to respond to that. If lash is over the top, you are in serious trouble. So I think this is a great ban to get off the field. One that, especially without Mo to lock him down, could do a ton in this game.
So Warden was available, and they go with the pocket. Is that normal for Hoot? ZP chat's asking, why no Hoot Warden?
I mean, Hoot is really good at both heroes, but I think for BuffEnjoyers, they just enjoy what Hoot brings to the table on the pocket in terms of not only still a really big team fight presence in the way that Last Stand would be able to bring, but pocket also a little bit more evasive, able to get a little bit more into the enemy jungle with impunity. Interestingly enough, though, for Abrahams here, I'm curious what Saint is going to play, because there's no Mo and Krill to play, which is often his backup when the Kelvin is off the board. Kelvin is off the board. Mo is off the board. The stage could be set for Paige.
Is it Paige time? Show us some new heroes. They've only been out a week. In fact, Paige wasn't even on the show when we closed things out on shift number 2. Instead, the Wraith makes it back in. 63,000 souls was good enough in game 1 to be played in game number 2. We'll see what Zergy can do. Final picks coming in on both sides. Expectations for the Abrahams. What can you go with this late in the draft, Jake?
I mean, you have a relatively well-rounded comp. I think probably you're wanting some kind of support. They go with the Sinclair, actually. So valuing a lot of the nuking threat, valuing and maybe also denying the Sinclair. The threat to steal Warden's ult can be a real annoyance in that 1v1 matchup. And maybe this Rabbit Hex could be pretty good. However, there's a lot of mobility on the BuffEnjoyers team. I'm a little worried about the Sinclair pick because I think it might just be hard to land your Rabbit Hex this game with how much people are going to be dancing around.
Doorman has made it in.
They grab the Doorman. I am interested to see the Doorman lane here. Is it going to be something like the Warden plus Doorman? Because I think that's actually a pretty sick combo. You can like cart the Warden while he's ulting, while he's channeling, and like let him basically chase while he's still channeling the ultimate. You could also door the Warden in, allow him to like initiate in from the back line. And Buffer just going to go back for the Billy as like this frontline option. But I think I see the vision for this Abrahams comp. I'm a little worried about some of the details, some of the execution, whether they can be able to land, where BuffEnjoyers have, for me, much more straightforward style. But I'm just excited to see if they can make the Doorman work and pull it off.
Have you ever done a sober stream, brother? No, I have not. This is my first one, but I'm having a great time.
Bucket's new to the industry. He's new. He's just getting his feet. He's just getting his feet in the water, guys. Chill out. Chill out.
Yeah, ignore all those things behind us. ZP, as we take a look here at the Doorman versus Billy showdown, will they ever match up? Are they the same role? Because both heroes came out a week ago. A lot of people probably don't have any game time on these characters. Give me expectations and observers. Keep the cameras on them.
Well, very different roles between the two. Billy, of course, full frontliner. Doorman, more in heavy poke, heavy setup. I mean, Doorman does a lot, but it's going to be more in the, carrying from afar and creating setup for the team. Also, in terms of lanes, I'm kind of expecting Doorman, Sinclair middle here. I think both can be kind of lane bullies, and you're going to have Sinclair have even more options to play around the doors depending on how they set it up. I want to see Doorman, Sinclair middle. That's what I want to see.
Jake, who am I?
Are you Doorman?
That's Sinclair. You'll learn.
Oh,
Watch
okay,
him, watch
okay.
him when
He does
he's in
this
game.
little-
It's the weakest Harry Potter I've ever seen, but I love him. He looks real strong. Chat, who wins this one? Are you going Billy? Are you going Doorman? And who do you want the camera on more? Let us know. We have the best observers on the planet working here at the night shift. We pay them occasionally. And this time, the players are getting paid thanks to our friends at Intel. $1,000 is guaranteed here in our EU finals. We also have a North American final coming up a little bit later. But I'm expecting this one to get closed out. Why? You gave them all of their best characters again. I don't know if the draft went to the Abrahams and you're busting out a Doorman with huge question marks after Listic just proved he can run a Billy. ZP, am I right? Or are we seeing a game 3?
I think we may see a game 3 here. I mean, on paper, I really like the Abrahams draft. Obviously, it depends on if Doorman can be as much of a lane bully in competitive play as he seems to be on paper, especially pairing up with the Sinclair. You can run Vindicta Abrams in one of the side lanes in all likelihood. Warden 7 also going to be pretty good. BuffEnjoyers by comparison. You know, Calico, we did see run earlier today to like reasonable effect. I'm not entirely sure I'm sold on running her. The Wraith, I still think takes a long time to get online, but the upside for them is that you're still running the Holiday and also D-Mob's absolutely pristine Viscous.
It's shift number 3 here at the night shift. If you're not already a Patreon, we'd love to have you join us for a future graveyard shift post show. We have our only Patreons come on in and ask questions to their favorite players as well as casters. Speaking of casters, 2 great ones on the mic. We got ZP Cast alongside Jake Overwatch. Follow him on the Twitter sphere. We'll see you in a minute.
Man, oh man, Jake. One thing I was looking at here, just see the chat reaction to Doorman. There was a comment in chat, Doorman Sinclair may be the highest IQ lane in MOBA history. I actually think that could be true when you think about the combinations of Door into Vexing Bolt in the beginning.
Yeah, I do think there's a lot that can be done as far as the nuking thread on that mid lane, but I mean, by the same token, right, like Viscous and Billy is a little scary on these close range lanes. Maybe Doorman can just play the range and you know, kite away from everything. But if you get caught one time on whether it's the Doorman or the Sinclair, you could wind up in real trouble.
Also, they did it. They put Sinclair Doorman in the same lane and they ran it mid here, Jake. So, you know, the perception was that, okay, this would be a strong lane. You put it in mid. It has come to reality, but now we'll see if the execution is there.
Doorman has pretty terrible creep clearing, so the wave is going to get shoved on our tower really hard, and I don't know that Sinclair plays that well from this position. He wants to have lane prio and kind of be up on the mid bridge. I would say the same for Doorman. So they need to find a way to get this lane cleared early, and it feels like you can't really use your nukes for that because you want to use them to harass. So as much as I can see the vision of this lane, I do think Billy and Viscous is a much more straightforwardly aggressive lane.
Yeah, it's hard to go against the Viscous in any lane to begin with. The Billy synergy, I mean, we've seen people run Billy Viscous earlier in the day too. So, you know, we're kind of in a little bit uncharted territory because we haven't had that much data of, you know, this specific combination against the others. But I will say, when we think about what generally wins, seeing Sinclair on the losing end of a lane feels pretty rare. And also, you know, while they're diving in, Listic is getting beaten up on this dive. There's a low HP Billy, and getting back in the lane and having decent pressure from here on out actually could be difficult with some of the poke that we're seeing right now between Saf and Saint.
Yeah, Listic did take a ton of damage in that last trade. Definitely didn't go his way. Saint just standing his ground there on the Sinclair. Always a nice one to see. I'm interested to see Zergi's lane this game. I mean, last game he had a really rough opening to the lane, had to go to the jungle for quite a while. Of course, not the way he would want it to go. Probably would want a much more stable early laning phase.
Can we talk about the stuff that chat wants to know? Jake, how do you feel about aiming with a keyhole?
I mean, this is a wild crosshair, actually. This is like some on-theme crosshair, but I'm not a particular fan of this one, but you know,
and for us newbies, can you walk us through the abilities? I just saw the bell going out. I know he's got a luggage card. I was playing with that ZP. But for the rooks watching, for week number 2 of Doorman, what should we know?
Yeah, so the bell...
You take it.
I was gonna say the bell just pretty straightforward, right? It's like a nuke, shoot the skill, you know, shoot it again to blow it up, deal some damage to the opponent players. The door is where he, of course, gets his name. Basically, it's a portal gun from Portal. If you didn't play Portal, what is wrong with you and where have you been for the last 10 years? But and that's going to be, I think, the real exciting part of the kit. But then also the luggage cart comboing with the door is when things get really crazy, where the cart can grab enemy players and pull them along its path, stunning them if it hits a wall. You can also grab allies in the cart and kind of pull them away to safety or push them into a fight if you want to. Here's the door. He's able to take this peek, portaling, shooting from behind the tower. You see the other side behind that Guardian. And the lane's starting to look pretty good for them as they get lane prio and get the creeps under the opponent's tower.
It's just difficult because there's no safe areas when the door is up. Ballistic, though, pretty decent HP advantage up against Saf. Going to be forcing Saf back. Not the fight you want to take against Billy with that sort of health from side to side. But the one interesting thing, too, is the high priority of just getting extra charge early on Doorman, just so you have double Bell. The cooldown between Bell is actually pretty short if you have the charges. But the cooldown back to base going to be even quicker as the splatter comes to connect.
Nice punch from D-Mob there, though. Knocking a player in, knocking them into a tough spot. Doorman doesn't have much by the way of self-save, right? Like, it really is just his door to get him out of trouble. So, yes, he has a lot of utility and nuking threat, but you get on top of him, and, I mean, the ultimate is kind of the only way he's really good at defending himself, which we'll see the ultimate at some point. It banishes people to another dimension, and they have to sort of win a little movement mini-game to escape.
There's a lot of weird interactions with it too, where some abilities interact with you while you're in there. You know, if you get Doorman ulted while getting lassoed, you'll just be stuck lassoed inside the hotel from afar, and you're guaranteed to not be able to complete the minigame.
Have a good time.
Yeah, that too. I mean, lots of people lassoed in hotels in human history.
David Carradine went out that way, I think.
Oh, boy. Jake, bring us back on topic. Over here in the side lane, we got Vindicta.
Snipes
Over
online,
here.
and the dive coming in. They're wasting no time with this advantage. ABL diving deep under the Guardian, pushing everyone back so there's no hope for the defense. Does take a ton of damage for his trouble. That does secure them the Guardian, but great. Warden, rather, really doesn't want to die in this spot. Wants to get some of his farm on the map. Trying to maybe re-engage on the Calico. Ooh, oh, nice read on the Flask. Looked very close. We saw, of course, Tariq behind that wall. Super close to a connection.
Yeah, not bad at all. Back in mid. Goes for the hotel guest and instead gets interrupted by the goo ball. That is not unstoppable until you actually put points into it. So the doorman just goes to you and says, would you like to stay at the Baroness? And you go, no, I actually would not.
Actually, I'd rather kill you instead of staying at your hotel. Turns out to be good. I mean, and this is the threat from D-Mob, right? He's already getting on with that Mystic Shot. Looks like he's just rushing the Express Shot too. So the laning pressure from this guy is monstrous. I mean, yeah, you have some good nukes, Stormman and Sinclair, but this guy's kind of the top dog in that department once he gets a couple of these key items online.
It's somewhat unreal how Viscus's power scales up just from the itemization. Probably one of the best heroes in the game in terms of just synergy between itemization and abilities.
But nonetheless, they're able to return to the lane, keep the prio on, and Listic, D-Mob, both pretty low. They don't want to get too much of a tank on these cooldowns. I mean, the Bell cooldown is so low, man. He has this up very, very quickly. A catch attempt in here from Listic. Luggage cart missed. Both of Billy's, a Billy and a stolen Billy ultimate.
Oh, it was muted for a second. Back over here, off to the left. Actually, on the right. Look at the Abrams lane, where it's kind of interesting. They didn't go for the Abrams Vindicta lane. Instead said, you know, we're going to do Abrams 7. Can still sub charge via static shock. But now, back over here to the left. Calico, bit under pressure. Telekinesis, though. Maybe putting Warden in a bind. Low HP, 50. Looking for a way out. Here comes Return the Shadow. A little bit more of the dive, and ABL can't find a way out.
Oh, the jukes are clean there. Nice sidestep from Sharik. Dodges one snipe. Has enough HP to block the second. And a deep dive under tower gets rewarded. Zergy off to a much hotter start in this game. We're still in the early game, but we saw what he could do with that massive farm into the late game. Now he's a lot quicker on the tempo. Only a level 1 blink. Still could be in trouble with Doorman playing around this, and yeah, no way to escape him with the threat of that portal behind. So the roam is good from Zap. They're getting the cleanups on Doorman, getting a few more of those items online, and like you said, very quickly investing into a lot of spirit nuking. So the burst potential, a huge threat from this Doorman.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bell is also one of those abilities that's like scarily potent, particularly if you're able to land setups where you get the direct damage and then some. But speaking of potent, how about charge from Abrams just immediately taking Obicam out? And once more! Wait, this time it went off. Into the Baroness. Listic goes.
Going down.
A little bit of parkour fail, 20 HP.
Oh,
may get the save. Cube comes in. You see Billy's horns on the outside with the puddle punch, but no! The save attempt, it's a good try, but it's not enough.
yeah, such a good attempt from D-Mob. Did everything to try and get his buddy out of trouble, but it wasn't enough with Taz there on the follow-up on the Vin roaming in. And despite the trades going both ways in this mid lane, in the end, it's Abrahams who open up that Guardian first. Small lead in this game, couple thousand souls.
So, all in all, taking a look at the aftermath of the early laning phase here as we start to approach the 10-minute mark. Overall even, 38k, 39k in the aggregate, but things getting a little bit spicy here off on the right-hand side. Tass in the sky as Vindicta. Looks for the assassinate. Over to the side, Calico. Return the shadow, looking in towards 7. Just right now, surviving. Saint finding D-Mob while this is going on, and it is getting a little bit messy over here, Jake.
Yeah, a lot of good kills coming in for Abrahams. Sharik just trying to slip away from it, but it's Obakim, or rather, getting sent packing there, and it's Taz getting a lot of the profit here on the Vin. Like we talked about, Vindicta's threat in the early game roams, now turning those into Guardian takes as well. The map really started to open up. Billy, you comment on this Warden, but you have what it takes, and yeah, still does get trapped. Warden, though, doesn't have backup in the area, doesn't want to double down in that fight. I think he might have been able to rip the ult and turn that one around, but just didn't know it was around the next corner.
Up close and personal. Coming in right now is Obakim. Trying to put a little bit of pressure here on the Saf. Hotel guest still about 14 seconds away. Short cooldown overall, and now, all right, you have the door set up in the back. Goes in for the bell. It's serious damage. And you have the door as an escape, and this is just some of the aggression you can do at low HP as Doorman, Jake, where you can get away with plays like that, and Taz actually comes in and gets the cleanup right on after.
Yeah, he's a follow-up king on the Vindicta right now, and a hero with a lot of snowball potential. We don't usually see Vin really scale into those late game carries, but she has been getting active, tons of kill participation, which is always what you want. Meanwhile, coming on board with Hoot, I think this is the first time we've been watching him this game. It's been relatively quiet for him, getting also a little bit more farm into the early game. But he's been taking a lot of pressure, and now Warden chasing him down with that ulti.
Looking down and in. Meanwhile, it's about time perhaps to go to the Baroness. Cart comes on out. Invitation has been sent, and Listic gets punched in the face. Doesn't even get the hotel suite this time around.
Oh, they don't even stay around. They just know that the damage is going to be good enough to take down Sharik, and so it is. Kills across the map now for Abraham's Doorman paying dividends. Saint as well getting active with that slowing hex, assisting some of those follow-up catches, setting up some of his own rabbit hexes as well for those plays.
I gotta say, just watching Doorman here, it's had a few ups and downs this game, but you cannot deny the aura that the hero brings to watching, whether it be just how the ult goes down or just the door play we saw a little bit earlier. It's been super fun to watch, but looking back here, in towards middle once more, Guardian pressure coming on in as BuffEnjoyers trying to get one of the last Guardians left remaining. Meanwhile, Ern's gonna get turned in by Abrahams and extra souls to their way.
Here's a special treat
He's just
for you.
the Ern TP with the door is kind of a wild usage. Saf can't quite get back to the door. Meanwhile, ABL kills Zergy across the map. But this fight on here looks pretty good for the BuffEnjoyers. Everyone's got to run away from this D-Mob ball. Clearing out the Surge, grabbing some boxes on the way. However, wave crashing on mid, probably going to send BuffEnjoyers back to base, let them reset, clear these waves.
Also in terms of Guardians, Abraham still maintaining their mid Guardian. BuffEnjoyers still gonna have to find a way back over there. Meanwhile, Chain Gang out here from Listic in the double Gamba, and a little bit on the chase down. Right now is Saint, not fearing the goat whatsoever. Up and over, and Listic had a little bit of support coming in from the air. Quick TP back in from Saint in response. Together though, able to finish what Saint started.
And getting rid of Listic on that Billy means you have a little bit more space to roam. Pocket caught in a tough spot, has to cape straight up into the air. Maybe can just slip away to the jump pad. Pocket, probably the most versatile escape hero in the game. And meanwhile, I mean, who just managed to get pretty nice farm potential here, coming back in this game from what was, he was a little bit behind, I believe, in that early mid game. Meanwhile, Jams, I see what's going on with him. He's got relatively defensive here. Had to go with that. Some of these shielding items, cold front as well. So he has a bit of fighting potential, but has 5k souls on board. It's going to have a pretty nice spike here. That max power surge plus the surge of power, the item, as well as the skill named Power Surge, is pretty potent on the 7. That tends to be that early game farm spike potential.
A little bit of power squared, just
my
getting
God.
slammed into the wall by Abrams together. Just be like going there, D-Mob find himself a little bit of a hotel stay. Not going to get out before the bonus damage comes into play. 80 HP and immediately dead. You know, it's a great thing about the Baroness is that not only do you get a great hotel stay, but they always have a welcoming party ready for you as you leave the hotel.
And speaking of parties, man, Abraham's across the map, kill after kill. They're playing this pick-heavy early game snowball style, but it's really paying off. Taz usually sticks to the Paradox in the Holiday, but here on the Vindicta, I think has more potential to get out of control in this game. Slowing Hex, Rabbit Hex, follow-up, a lot of control onto Shariq, has the ult just to be able to slip away. Listic with the counter engage, though, maybe it's starting to look good. Zergy comes in to deal damage, is low himself, but Abrams scent packing, not enough support here to get the counterplay, and Shariq lives. So BuffEnjoyers bring numbers to that defense of the mid lane Walker. That's where they've cut their teeth as a team, right? Making these comebacks based on mid lane defenses.
Also, speaking of mid lane, the mid lane Guardian's still there. I mean, it's not at the point of the game where it's impacting builds too much, but no extra item slots here thus far for BuffEnjoyers. And it's a little bit weird because usually their macro is strong enough that even when they're behind, they're able to make efficient trades for buildings. And you take a look at the group up coming in the middle as we get a quick pause. You got to think that this focus on the middle is the main priority for BuffEnjoyers now, especially 14 minutes in.
Yeah, they'd love to be able to take down this Guardian. You know, I think maybe this is the moment to do it with quite a few of the key ultimates off the field. I think Abrahams are maybe a little bit more ult dependent as a team than the BuffEnjoyers are. I think they're probably more willing to take these fights with, Pocket and Viscous, just mixing it up with Holiday in the front line, trying to put a lot of damage down. And let's see if the Walker defense can really be mounted. I mean, Warden, 7, they're not really going to be able to get to this fight. So I think Abrahams, they're just maybe hoping to grab a kill or two on the Walker defense, whereas BuffEnjoyers maybe do want to force it here.
People are coming into the fight a little bit drained. I mean, the main ult to watch out for here is that Obikim is in a reasonable spot to land a lasso onto either Saf or Tass here at the beginning. There's no hotel guest up, and I mean, Tass just has general Vindicta poke. I feel like with what BuffEnjoyers has rotated over here, it should be a reasonably clean take of Mid Guardian, but we'll see what they're able to do, especially if they take a little bit in the setup here. You are going to get things like hotel guest right back up.
I think they're trying to maybe gank the Warden. Maybe Shariq's just scouting the information, but a lot of Abraham's players have converged on the mid lane, so it seems like that push, not going to be much. Pocket just coming in for some big nuke on it, just going to cape his way out of it. Really well played, I think, by Hoot. Does he have the TP out, though? And yeah, the hotel guest, he's caught in trap, so Hoot could actually find himself in trouble because he's not going to have skills coming out of this. Oh, goodbye. Oh, he's not even there to be sniped.
Do you feel there's pressure on the players a little bit? If they look back at the vibe, they're like, yeah, I'm getting observed every time I go into the hotel.
Trades, though, coming in. BuffEnjoyers finding 2 off the back of that. They are traded right back. It's a 2 for 2 now. The Abrahams brawling in the secret shop. And yeah, I mean, I think the problem is that Dormant ult, if you get Dormant ulted after you blow all your stamina, there's just no real way to actually successfully complete the movement puzzle with the timer, right? Especially if you get caught by a slowing axe, some of these duration abilities. Oh, canceling the Warden ulti is big, though. Nice connection by Demov.
Demov has been the cancel king, canceling Last Stand, canceling Hotel Guest back when it was cancelable. 4 points got put into it. I mean, Demov using Goo Ball to maximum potency. Not just all the usual uses, but also just really well-timed interrupts on top of it.
Yeah, meanwhile, ABL has also hit a pretty nice level of farm on this Warden. But there are a lot of stuns to be worried about in terms of interrupting your ultimate. I mean, Wraith is probably the first one that comes to mind, but Goo Ball is also pretty good at that. Could get a lasso by Holiday, so you got to be a little bit careful when it comes to popping the Warden ulti this game. He's going to do, they're going to boost the urn turn in. Like, this is pretty interesting because it's so hard to know when the urn turn in is going to come in. And I think you can turn it in. Like, it's so safe, right? If something went wrong, you would just step back through the door. Like, this is actually a pretty sick usage of the skill because I don't know how you really punish that short of like a perfect lasso pulling them off the urn.
It's so tricky. And also, let's not forget, too, in terms of late game power that Doorman's going to give your team is that you have some of the best mid-boss contests around because all Doorman has to do is get just the brief moment of LOS into the mid-boss area, and you can create the perfect vantage point to poke, steal, or do whichever into the fight. So, I mean, Doorman brings power even beyond the fact that he just kind of hurts, especially if he's able to land his bells.
Yeah, I think Doorman, I will say, my theory on him as a character, though, is I think he probably will start to fall off into the deeper into the late game, where the damage is less relevant from the hotel stay. You just immediately drop into the pit motel to get out. Oh, the luggage cart just barely missed, comboing the slowing hack. So Tariq has a chance to play his way out of this, but no, with this many players converging on him, yeah, that's pretty hopeless.
The Bell's amount of CC is actually pretty reasonable too. It's not great after you get hit by it in terms of getting away right on after. And the fact is, like, you get hit by one Bell, you're probably gonna get hit by another right after because it's still a ability with charges. It's a lot of lockdown that's still bringing good damage, and you have the option of throwing in the hotel guest right on after.
I love Dorman's sprint animation. It's like the funniest looking guy when he's sprinting and he's dashing and he just does like a little mini sprint. Like all the movement animations look so silly on this guy.
You know what it is that you listen to his voice lines intently in game, he sounds like an eldritch entity and he's basically cosplaying as a human. Like he's like, is this how humanity runs? I think so. Or they should run this way if they don't want to deal with unspeakable horror. But off to the Baroness goes Listic. And again, not enough stamina to get over before he pays the fee.
Big damage, and where's the follow-up? It's coming in hot. Billy's getting a lot of skills off, though, putting pretty significant damage down in the fight, but I think Abrahams just have too much to bring to bear. Zergy forced a TP out of that one. Looks like the 7 stun was on him. Catch is attempted by the doorman, but it's still expensive, right? Continuing to play towards this streak of 1 team fights in the mid lane. Zergy is still going to be able to clear side lanes, get some farm in, and despite what feels like, I mean, really good fights for Abrahams, I feel like they've been winning a lot of fights back to back to back. I think BuffEnjoyers is just getting more out of the jungle, is just being more efficient because farm-wise, they really aren't falling behind. And, you know, in the end, yeah, winning these fights is great, getting kills is great, but it doesn't matter if you're not turning it into a soul lead.
That's exactly the point I was going to bring up here is that, yeah, it's been flashy. We've been seeing some great team fights from Abrahams and BuffEnjoyers. It feels like they've been losing really hard. But then you look at where the game actually is, it's like, but wait. Not so much. And I observers. That's fantastic. What we just saw there, like more of that.
Surely observing the doorman is easy and consistent. Surely there's no challenge in that one. Oh, Billy catch onto Vindicta.
Oh.
Taz has been on a hot snowball. That's a pretty big streak, I believe. Fed to Hoot of all people. It's a nice kill to be finding because Taz is one of your key rotators and initiators. That's a bit of a window maybe for BuffEnjoyers to do something on their end.
Also kind of a no-fly zone. You're just Vindicta enjoying yourself on the rooftop and a goat with a bat just rolls up behind you. Listic activating a little bit of stealth for that one.
Headed to Greenwich.
Okay, point blank doorman. That one was a little bit less epic. Just walking. He's walking here. But, okay. Overall, we've basically gone back to a wash between both teams. I mean, really, the only thing BuffEnjoyers is really behind on now is a little bit of Walker HP. That's it. Any team's game now, Jake.
Yeah, which, you know, makes me, my theory is that Dorman falls off a bit. I'm not sure how true that is. I think Dorman's pretty sick at doing some crazy base defenses with the door and maybe trying to make clutch fights. But in the end, you don't want to be defending your base. You want to be killing the opponent and seizing their base. Doorman, though, starting to do just that. The cube, just enough to save Demob for a moment. But surely even the GOAT can't play his way out of this. Yeah, the follow-up is there. A lot of players from Abrahams to secure that opening kill. But meanwhile, BuffEnjoyers pick up the urn elsewhere on the map, getting a lot of farm. And like, yeah, this is one pickoff, but if you had to bring 4 players to achieve it and the wave is crashing on your walker, it's one of those things. That's sort of why BuffEnjoyers, I think, has been able to maintain the souls so close despite so many fights going against them.
Well, here's what I want to see from Abrahams here is use Doorman to set up a good door right by urn, and turning this urn, I think, becomes a real problem when, look at the door. The door has been set up here, Jake. Do you want to turn in the urn when the door is just sitting there in a menacing fashion? I don't.
Sinclair trying to just die for this walker. He's going to accomplish the dying part, it seems, but I don't know about the walker. Ooh, he's so close. Yeah, okay, the follow-up is there. Too close for Demob. Did get a lot of good damage on the walker. I mean, it's not terrible, but I think the fact that you don't get that kill, maybe BuffEnjoyers want to bring a lot of players and actually commit to a heavy team fight on the side. But like you mentioned, the door makes that super scary.
Well, the door has been opened. So there's a window here, the baby way out the door, but luggage cart comes on in, takes Alco out outright into the charge. The CC chain is brutal. And Abrahams, they decided it's time to go. Sherrick down immediately. Jam side lighting it up in the sky, ends up getting taken down, but so much lightning damage was done that still may be the fight here for Abrahams as another cart connects.
Yeah, it sends Hoot away. Hoot still pretty healthy. Doesn't have Affliction, but can be pretty potent in these fights. Viscous as well. These are heroes that love when skills run low and they can rely on these low cooldown nukes to get trades back the other way. It's a 2 for 2, but I mean, this is starting to show, I think, some of the cracks here for Abrahams. They do grab a Walker elsewhere, but you really don't want to die for this on ABL. He's quite healthy. It's just Zergy on the chase down, but she's pretty fast. Both these heroes with a lot of movement speed. No ultimate for Warden to make the turn, and oh my god, Zergy's single target is monstrous.
Ball! Oh, but out of nowhere! You get the name of that Abrams. Comes in for the save, nearly cuts Zergy down at 150 HP. ABL, though, was so low that he was able to get chased down towards the end. And a little bit tragic for ABL there, Jake, because he was so close to last stand. If that was just like 5 seconds later, he could have turned it.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, dies for the Walker, right? So it's not the worst trade in the world, despite the fact of him almost escaping here. Lasso attempted by Holiday, not able to get the connection. I mean, I wonder for ABL, the key for him is going to be like finding and sticking on targets with the last stand. See what he can deliver, because you know it's going to be up to him and Jamsite, who really need to be these late game damage dealers and actually stick on targets, where the BuffEnjoyers comp has a lot of mobility. They're going to be really good at kiting Seven and Warden ults, and so yeah, you are incredibly strong when you commit these big team fight ultis for Abrahams, but when those ultis run out, you could be in a little bit of trouble. I don't know how much follow through you really have in a long engagement where somebody like Zergy is really going to profit, not being as dependent on the ultimate for team fight damage.
Could be another fight taking place here. You got the hotel guest ready to go. Is Listic gonna have another stay? Is the words I'm looking for. Moves on forward. Hotel guest dropped. Doorman 300 HP under pressure, and it's a goop pulse in the hotel. That is not regulation. Falls into the pit, but also still plenty healthy as he rolls out of the situation. Listic, though, again, the one to pay the price, has been the target of focus for Abrahams in most of these fights.
Yeah, and I mean, the goo ball, though, yeah, you might trap it, but he's just going to roll out and, like, tank the damage just fine in the goo ball. So it doesn't seem like too big of a problem for Viscous. And the chases are coming in. Counterspells deployed. Seven in big trouble. Cleared out now, and that's a key core. Dropping down. Wave is already crashing on this Walker. It's a perfect scenario here for BuffEnjoyers to turn this into an objective take.
And BuffEnjoyers rarely will miss opportunities like this.
Taz?
The contest and over. Taz super low on the Vindicta, still somehow alive, taking the refuge here off in the closet, and you check those closets as you move on forward. So that one ends up working. Zergy low HP, take it away for ABL and able to go down, but the card plus Hoot turn it into a 1-for-1. Saf, though, back out of the spawn into the fight. The Doorman, bit of a chase down, maybe.
I mean, yeah, it's a Walker take. It's a winning team fight. Zergy dying for that one is pretty painful. Thought he could maybe burst ABL down, but the flash came off cooldown just in time. Wave positions are quite good for BuffEnjoyers. Are they going down into the mid boss right now? I think they are here, just gambling. Hey, you don't have ABL. You can't take this fight. I wonder, though, if Jamsite has something to say about that. I think there's a real option here for Abrahams to go for the contest. They're only down one, and they have some powerful ultimates, some powerful skills to be able to potentially contest some of these rejuves.
They may be going for the door. Doorman sliding on down. Will they get the door in time? Drops on down. Storm Cloud out. Door is in. This is going to be enough of a contest.
Who gets the third rejuve? Goes to Buff.
Stick was able to take down Saf. Rejuves are being burned back and forth. Saints and Obakins both used. Jamside Storm Cloud faded. Both teams a little bit wounded as the aftermath. Sherrick desperately trying to get away. Listic also wounded. And it's a cloned chain gang in from Saint, pulling everyone together. But is the fall through going to be there? It may have just been Saint bringing everyone together for his own demise.
And you still have one more rejuve for BuffEnjoyers, so they can afford to lose one more player, but I'm not even sure they will. Nice lasso here, being held down. Billy getting the follow-up here onto Jamside, and it's an absolute rout. Everyone from Abraham's going to be going down. ABL still here with the ultimate. Now just needs to try to get out of this one. Knows already this fight is done and dusted, but I just don't think you can escape. Obakim has insane mobility. Maybe you can get under this Walker, and enough blast can dissuade the push, but BuffEnjoyers really want to get this kill. They know how hard it is for Warden to fight his way out with no ulti.
Warden without ultimate is half a character, and half a character you are not afraid of, Walker or no. ABL just going on down. Abraham's getting fully team wiped. And now you look at the state of the game, and it's going to be BuffEnjoyers with a healthy 20k lead and perhaps a little bit more should they get this Walker.
Yeah, Pocket, I don't think he's going to get the Walker. wisely, I think, backs out of that one on low HP, does not want to get bursted. All the rejuves are gone now, but you have quite a bit of time here, but, you know, what, 20 seconds, relatively uncontested, just clear camps. I think this urn, I'm a little skeptical about it. I don't know that this is actually going to go off here for Calico, but it is an easy urn drop for Abraham, so maybe you just need to hold the urn now to deny it. And Zergy has reached that point much faster than the last game, right? This is a Wraith that didn't have to struggle in the early game, that actually was off to a hot start and is now in the happy place, just free farming jungle camps here for about 30 seconds. It's all you really need on Wraith. He's got another 6K item coming in very soon.
Also, in terms of things that can deal with Zergy, there's not tons of options for Abrahams. ABL, of course, has a power spike when Last Stand is up, but that is often short-lived. And of course, you have Saf, who can just invite Zergy to the hotel.
Damage.
But Zergy just does such a good job, Jake, of not only optimizing farm, but also not being the first target in these fights.
And speaking of the first target, Doorman, maybe the perfect one to slip out of that. Lassoed in. Oh, but does that? Yeah, cancels the Doorman ultimate. Not able to get it off in time. The lasso interrupts. And so Obakim's the one to find that opening pickoff. BuffEnjoyers, remember, they're up 1-0 in the series. The series is starting to slip away now from Abrahams. It's been BuffEnjoyers as the team that has made these challenging comebacks, that has brought games back from the brink. Abrahams have been comfortably playing from in front, but right here, they're not finding that situation.
Headed to green.
Oh, Obakim grabs the urn. They're chasing him down, but the Veil Walker and Biz, I think he's getting out with that. And Abraham's brought a lot of players to try and deal with that urn snatch. The movement was so clean from Obakim, though. He absolutely raced to that urn, won the movement race. And honestly, I think if he had been a little bit slower there, it would have cost him his life.
Alrighty. BuffEnjoyers right now looking to be back-to-back champions if they're able to take this map and not give up this lead. Rabbit X, though. And Hoot, a little bit of a bind here, but your pocket, you got plenty of options to get away.
It's kind of low.
Sort of
Okay.
situation.
Does slip away from that for the moment. And, you know, elsewhere, connection comes in. The Stolen Affliction, though, onto Zergy is putting a decent amount of damage down, but do you really want to double down on a Frenzy Wraith, right? Like, yeah, she's taking a little bit of damage. Once she gets down past that Frenzy threshold, you're going to have real trouble in actually trying to finish this one off. Speaking of D-Mob, diving in, putting his life on the line here, getting a solid initiation. Coop with the follow-up burst. And the Phantom Strike connection from the ball as well. This game seems to be all over but the Cryo ZP. BuffEnjoyers just getting cleanup after cleanup.
Yeah, and again, it's just a situation where they got a few pickoffs, turned it into a little bit more, turned it into a mid-boss, and Abrahams find themselves in what could be the end game here. First stage Patron is going to go to the wayside. The remainder of their base Guardians also going to get crunched. BuffEnjoyers going to play it on the safe side, back on out. But now you have to go against BuffEnjoyers, where they're going to have a nearly 40k soul lead. So the stat difference is absolutely massive at this point. And you're not running a team for Abrahams that has massive pick potential per se in some of these fights. You're not running something like a Paradox, you don't have something like a Holiday. You more so have to get an advantage off something rotationally, which, hey, look, you got Doorman, you have options for some tricky plays, but you have to be the one to set this up. If you wait for BuffEnjoyers to bring the fight to you, you are simply going to lose the game.
It's key item choice here for Zergy. I wonder if it's like a leech here, maybe. Something to just buff survivability. I mean, you're reaching the point where you can kind of just start diving the Patron if you're able to even get the fight that close to the base. So it's a key choice for Zergy, what he wants to deploy to close out this game. Would be an easy earn for Abrams, so they've got to be cautious. They really don't want to allow the pickup. BuffEnjoyers want to defend this earn, and you know, both teams know it here.
What could be the final fight now approaching? BuffEnjoyers off to the upper left. Abrahams right now biding their time, deciding not quite the time to go on in. They would love to get in pick of someone here, but the setup is going to be the challenging end as together. Tries to go for a charge pickup. Not quite going to find it. But the key here is, Jake, is that Abrahams is on a timer. They cannot let BuffEnjoyers be the one to initiate what may be the final fight.
Yeah, I think they're going to go with the final defense on this earn drop. Looks like they're setting up for it. 7 ulti still not online. A catch in the mid lane, though. The slowing hex onto Pocket. Hoot. Overplaying his hand there. Thought he could get a little bit tricky, but that slowing hex is just deadly for Pocket, right? Really cuts a lot of your options away from the hero. And Abraham's just saying, you know what, YOLO, let's go for this. Let's send it. ABL did deploy the ultimate to get that team fight off. Lasso, is there a connection? Oh my god, pulled so insanely deep, and Obakim's back under the walker. It's turning into a really scary fight here for Abrahams.
Meanwhile, Doorman was trying to make a bit of an escape, ends up getting caught. Zergy, nearly 4k HP, about as farmed as a Wraith is going to get. Rolls on in, could be the final fight. As we see Abrahams right now desperately trying to disengage, live to fight another day. BuffEnjoyers, though, full forward, looking for it. And is Zergy afraid of the storm? Right now, the answer may just be no. He's fighting the storm tooth and nail. Still, 7 living for quite a while, but ends up falling under the pressure. Abraham's down 4, BuffEnjoyers only down 1, and the end, Jake, is approaching.
Yeah, huge performance here from Zergy, just so tanky at this phase of the game, even under the storm cloud. And yeah, even Abrahams knew it. They just had to take a gamble, had to take any chance they could find. GG's in the chat, just a formality now as BuffEnjoyers continue to grab this victory here with Intel back in the game, sponsoring in the Deadlock night shift. And it's BuffEnjoyers clocking in with another championship.
Massive victory for the BuffEnjoyers. The Zergy fans, excuse me, going crazy in the chat. Trackball could have been the difference, or it could have been the character selection, or it could have been just some dominant teamwork. What did you see, ZP? What was the difference between BuffEnjoyers and the Abrahams in a clean 2-0?
I gotta say, if I had to nail it down to one factor, you could talk about the BuffEnjoyer macro play all day and all night, but to me, I still like the micro play, and the amount of interrupts DMOV was getting, interrupting Last Stand, interrupting Hotel Guest, saves with the cube at the right place, right time. We are now 2 weeks in a row where all that seems to be happening is that DMOV picks Viscous and BuffEnjoyers win. At some point, teams have to look at this and go, maybe we don't let DMOV play this hero anymore.
Yeah, Jake, I haven't been around the game that long, but 2 episodes in, I'm like, okay, that's a problem. This guy who won MVP last week, maybe we should take away his best character, at least his comfort character that he's showcasing. Clean victories. On the other side, you have to just say they're getting the job done. They're doing it consistently. And Virtus.pro may be re-signing them soon. BuffEnjoyers dropping VP for this event and still holding the belt at the end. Let's take a look at the victory overall. Jake, do you have a preview on the numbers or a feeling of who might have been a carry in this matchup?
I mean, I suspect Zergy's stats are going to look amazing, right? He looked great in the last game where he started off really weak and had to forge that long road to a comeback. But in this game, he came out pretty strong. It was back and forth in the early game, but once BuffEnjoyers got the lead, man, Zergy was profiting a ton with these team fights, a lot of individual solo kills. I think it was pretty great to see Sap on the Doorman, though, especially in the early game. I think we can say that this Doorman provides a ton of utility in the early game snowball threat. And while maybe things fall off, maybe things are in trouble, I mean, we've seen in the past in Deadlock, sometimes these early game dominator heroes are really good, especially that threat to grab quick or easy earn turn-ins, earn contests looked amazing on the Doorman. So it was cool to see that utility from the pros. I think that's something that a lot of people are going to want to take to their matches in play in the public server.
Some fan service on both sides. The Billy was brought out once again by Listic, and I felt like Listic not having the same impact he had a week ago with a few different characters in his arsenal. ZP, are you sold on the new characters? Will they be in the games next week, you think?
I think they're going to get implemented more and more. If you're seeing them get played after 1 week when people really haven't had the greatest amount of playtime on them, that means they're really good even without full mastery of the kit, which means they're probably amazing when people truly get that mastery. But you know who else is amazing? Our patrons. Over on our Deadlock Night Shift Patreon, one of the tiers, $25 more, you get a shout out on broadcast. So shout outs to Afax, Flint Snow, and Young Calc, who was at $25 for a moment, then changed, whatever, it's still good enough. Calc, you get your shout out too, but check out our Patreon if you want to throw a little bit extra support the show's way, and of course get access to our exclusive post show, The Graveyard Shift, where later tonight we're gonna be sitting down with John to get his thoughts on the game and the scene.
Ooh, I love that. And John is always going to be a fun guest. Dude, Bend a Guy, thank you for your contributions, keeping it in the top 10 last week. Patreon, join us and you get into the Night Shift's Graveyard Shift featuring the great ZP. Jake is going to be crushing the hosting role potentially for our NA portion, as I have to go join my 3-year-old for some activities tonight. Swimming is fun. Jake, let's jump in though with our numbers from this series and what we saw. Is there an MVP, a clear favorite that just jumps out statistically?
Yeah, I think for me, this is a big game from Zergy in particular, because Zergy was kind of forced under the Wraith, it felt like, in game one. It felt like Abrahams had him exactly where they wanted him. They took away the 7, they took away the Infernus, maybe these more conventional carry heroes we've been seeing a lot of, but Zergy said, all right, I'll bring out the Wraith, and they played a long and drawn out comeback in game one, man. That was a knockdown drag out. They really had to scrap for every single comeback engagement. And then, man, in game 2, it was like, all right, just give me the Wraith. Like, maybe this is actually good. Maybe this is legit. And he proves that it is. I mean, once he had that Frenzy, the debuff remover, the counter spell, it's getting into those more defensive late game items. Once he already has the Merc Mag and the Boundless Spirit, man, the Wraith becomes a problem. Even if you do get on top of her, it's not necessarily going to be easy to get that kill. So I love what Zergy showcased in this game. I mean, the massive single target damage threat from Wraith looked amazing. And I think that's going to force maybe some teams to start considering Wraith a little bit more highly in the coming weeks, maybe even for NA.
Zergy looking great on that character, both games. I really enjoyed the Hollywood play. Shout out to Demov, though. The best blob. Even Goober said it in the chat. We saw it. Hoot get in his pocket. Everyone had fun for the BuffEnjoyers as they walk away with another $1,000 in their pocket. They're quickly becoming the richest team in Deadlock. ZP, if you played against these guys with yourself cloned 5 times, how long would the game last?
I'm going to be honest, Puckett. If it gets 15 minutes, I would be happy. I think I would lose pretty heavily in lane phase, and it would just get worse from there. If nothing else, my hero pool, even if I get back up, to the higher ranks, my lifetime has in the realm of like Ascendant right now. Even if I got it into Eternus, my hero pool is like 3 heroes, so I would not match up well in a
I think you'd crush. Our MVP was ready. Shout out to Solomon. I just threw that random blurb in there. Let's take a look here at our Wraith. Zergy. MVP level performance, 48,000 souls. We talked about his 63,000 in the game 1. Player damage through the charts, ridiculous objective damage, and only 3 deaths the entire time. Kills is 6 good for a Wraith, Mr. Jake.
Yeah, I mean, kills are one thing, but the 23 assists shows that despite Wraith being a really, a hero that wants to maybe split push, wants to farm and get to the late game, 6 kills, 23 assists shows that you're being very active. You're actually really showing up to a ton of engagements and bringing the heat. Also, you take a look at the item timings. I mean, getting Merc Mag pre-20 minutes is a pretty sick game for Wraith. That item really escalates the damage and really starts to pump the threat, followed very quickly by a Boundless. And then you can just see his items. Like, he just knows, look, my damage, this game is over if I'm able to actually shoot and deal damage. So it's Spirit Resilience, it's Frenzy, it's debuff remover, it's counter spell, just all in defensive items. And Frenzy has some offensive potential, but I would say a mostly defensive option in terms of the build here on Wraith. So he sees, once he's below half HP, man, he just starts lighting it up. And really impressive performance on the Wraith, the hero that I would say has fallen out of the meta pretty hard. Was a top tier pick for a very, very long time, but I feel like Zergy just brought it back today.
Yeah, didn't see it at all last week, and now we see it back-to-back games. Will NA use this champion, this hero, Mr. ZP?
I mean, overall, I would guess no, because NA has always had this very bad, anti-Wraith bias. We went through some weeks in the past of Deadlock competitive history where Wraith would be first pick, first ban in EU always, and wouldn't even get picked in NA at times. And that was when Wraith was one of the most broken heroes in Deadlock history. So will NA surprise me and pick Wraith? It's not impossible, but I'm not expecting it. I kind of feel like NA is going to embrace new heroes a little bit more. I think one of the things we'll see in NA that we didn't see today is that we'll see, or on the U side, we'll see Paige get played. Also, NA has the option to play Drifter. Drifter is available. They've had a few hours with it while we're finishing up EU, so that alone could make NA a very, very different place than EU today.
Zergy's screen is all kinds of fun to watch, and he was a fantastic interviewee last week in the Graveyard pick. In the Graveyard shift. ZP, who's on the show tonight? You said John. For those who don't know him, who's John? What can they expect? Where can they submit questions?
Yeah, so you can submit questions in our Discord. If you go to the Patreon channel as a patron, you can ask your questions there, and we will relay them to John. As far as John goes, well, he's a former North American champion, was one of the key parts of Melee Creeps when they were taking it to Hydra Nation, and one of the most consistent players you're going to find, whether it be on Warden or Mirage or really just John picking up heroes as it goes. Probably one of the biggest grinders in the scene, where I remember seeing John back in the Deadlock beta, the very first stages of May last year, and the man has just grinded himself into one of the top players in NA. So, just to see his progression to go from just, pubbing into now genuine top player and threat has been really cool to see. And that's kind of, part of the questions we're going to get into later tonight.
And we're going to be joined for a very special interview. Can we announce it? Or do we have to wait till the other side of the break, Jake?
He's
here right now. Let's do it.
We got the man, the myth, the legend. We got Hoot here in for an interview. I guess I'll open it up. So, it's a nice win from you guys. I really just want to ask about, especially game one. I mean, you guys were pretty brutally behind. Honestly, the game looked really rough. You guys still had walkers up, but the soul lead really went against you. What are the comms like for the team in terms of when you're in a spot like that, where you're far behind and trying to make a comeback?
We're really trying to just minimize losing and then get one big play, one catch off. We're constantly just looking at the map where they are and trying to make a play on other side of the map. And we're just very, very careful at looking at the map and looking where they are.
When you guys do go in, it's been a calculated decision. Who is the most aggressive?
It's gotta be Listic. He's always first in, and almost always first dead.
You know what to expect, though. It's good. Go ahead, Zeke.
Yeah, so on the Listic note, that actually brings a point I wanted to touch on, is that I think that some people will look at the last games where Listic was on the billing and go like, man, Listic was getting blown up a lot, but was there actually more inherent value there than the eye test would give? And the idea is that people were still blowing a lot of cooldowns on Listic, and Listic was essentially getting a lot of the aggro. So I felt like we had several fights where, Listic would go in, he would take a trip to the hotel, he would fall into the pit, he would eat all sorts of cooldowns before even going to the hotel. And yes, Listic would die, but you guys would end up winning the fight, or at least breaking even in some of those fights. So, if you had to defend Listic and Listic's contribution on the Billy, what would you say?
Yeah, I mean, he's burning all of their cooldowns, and he's pulling everyone towards him, especially with his ult. Billy's ult is really, really good for just going in and taking everyone with him. Just making everyone die with him.
All right. Well,
we're going to take turns. It's Jake's turn.
All right. Well, I you are the newest comer here to BuffEnjoyers as far as somebody coming in to join this team. And I'm just curious, what it's been like for you to come in and join a team that has had very little roster changes for quite a long time here in Deadlock history. And so how did that come about? How was that like a connection you guys already had or something you've been talking about before?
I mean, I've been talking to Lightbringer and just VP, or not VP, no, BuffEnjoyer players in general, and it just came up after Michaelis decided to stop playing, and they thought I was the first candidate that they wanted to try out and play with. And
you've lived up to the hype. I think it's been incredibly fun to watch you. In fact, my last name's Puckett, and I now want to play Pocket after watching your first week. Can you, though, tell me, why don't we see more competitive teams right now? I'm somebody coming outside of the Deadlock community. Why are there just 15 guys or about 20 people I see rotating around Europe? How do we get more competition to get to your skill level?
I think there are a lot of players that are good at the game, but they are scared to make a team themselves and actually try to compete with top players. Because there is a lot of people, a lot of high MMR people that are good at the game that are playing pubs, but they're not really trying anything at competitive scene. So I think there's definitely an area for more players in the scene.
We need to find more money, Jake. Money removes fear.
Why is that on me, man? I gotta
come on, Jake. You're the most handsome of the crew. We got to use the pretty boy smile. Come on, cash it in.
Jake, do more sponsor things. Hoot, I had actually one question, and it's more so chance to self-promote here. But look, you love talking in your stream title. Anytime you win a tournament like this, where can people catch you if they want to see more of your gameplay on your own personal shifts outside of Wednesday?
They will catch me on Twitch at HootDL. And the title you'll see that it's me with the title 3x Fight Night win or Night Shift winner. My bad.
You're doing great. Doing better than we do. Night Shift champion once again. Can I get your prediction? Does Hydra Nation get the belt again for NA tonight?
I think I saw some scrims and they were struggling against some teams, but I'm not sure.
And if you
This
play
This is the
against
moment for the
Hydra Nation,
shakeup, right?
would
With
you
all
give them
the
the belt?
I can't. This is too much pressure. I can't just give one team. I have to see how they play today.
Okay. All right, we're gonna give it another week. I need an answer next week. Best of
Yeah,
luck. I expect
I'll
to
give
see
it
you
to you
then.
next week.
All right, cheers. That's Hoot, everybody. He's a legend. He's a streamer. You can follow him once again, Hoot DL, on the twitch.tv. So we're going to go to an awesome break. Reminder, Intel is here this week. They've got you covered. But if you want to support the people behind the scenes, the button pushers, if you want to feed an observer for 5 to 12 days, all you got to do is become a Patreon. We're going to a break. Shout out to Solomon, the guy who hits the buttons.